Evening, folks, and thank you for waiting. Our closed session took a little bit longer than what we had anticipated. Let's see. We are reconvening for a closed session. There's nothing to report. I want to adjourn the closed session at 6:58, and I want to call to order the regular Elk Grove City Council meeting at 6:58, that is, on Wednesday, March the 8th. I want to also request the city clerk to read the Metro replay schedule.
Thank you, Mayor. This meeting of the Elk Grove City Council will be replayed on Metro Cable Channel 14 on Friday, March 10th at 1 p.m. and Monday, March 13th at 6 p.m. It is being closed captioned and will be webcast at sacmetrocable.tv. City Council meeting videos are also archived on the city's website at elkgrovecity.org. For members of the audience who may have personal electronic devices, please place them on silent mode during the meeting. The Elk Grove City Council welcomes, appreciates, and encourages participation in the City Council meeting. City Council requests that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes per person so that all present will have time to participate. City Council reserves the right to reasonably limit the total time for public comment on any particular noticed agenda item as it may deem necessary. If you wish to address the City Council during the meeting, please complete one of the blue speaker cards which can be found at the back of the room, provided to the Assistant City Clerk prior to consideration of that agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, if you can call the roll, please.
For the roll call, Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Hume.
Here.
Councilmember Suen.
Here.
Vice Mayor Detrick.
Here.
And Mayor Lee.
Here. And this takes us to the Pledge of Allegiance. I see our County Supervisor, Don Natoli, here. Supervisor Natoli, would you lead us in the pledge? At the beginning of every regular meeting, the City Council would also like to have a moment of silence. So if you could join the City Council in a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you very much. Next item, approval of agenda. I have agenda in front of me.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion, got a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? All right, let me see, next item.
We have no closed session items under Section 3, which takes us to Section 4, our presentations and announcements, starting with item 4.1, which is the recognition of CPR heroes presented by the Cosumnes Community Services District.
Good evening, Mayor Lee and members of the City Council. My name is Brett Sherman, a battalion chief in charge of our EMS division with the Cosumnes Fire Department. And tonight we're here to celebrate with you the chain of survival for one of our community members. In 2016, there were over 350,000 people who experienced out-of-hospital cardiac arrest in the United States. This represents nearly 1,000 people per day, and of those 1,000, fewer than 100 survived the event to a pre-event quality of life. By the time this meeting is over tonight, approximately 2 people in the United States will have needed immediate life-saving skills provided for cardiac arrest. Efforts across the nation, including CPR training and the use of automatic external defibrillators, is working. In 2013, the out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survival rate was approximately 9%, with about 40% of the people receiving bystander CPR prior to first responders' arrival. In 2016, this survival rate has increased to 12%, and with approximately 46.1% of people, civilians, aiding in the recovery or the immediate initiation of CPR. Every person in this room has the ability to provide these life-saving skills with a simple 5-minute class. In 2016, the Cosumnes Fire Department began to bring CPR skills to the public in our Sidewalk CPR program campaign, where we teach people in less than 5 minutes how to do hands-only CPR and take the initial steps, the first link of the chain of survival. The reality is, with the exception of the first responders that you see in this room and many across the nation, the likelihood of a person to use or need the skill of CPR is for a family member or a friend. These 2 programs enable community members to be the difference. Tonight I'm here to share with you just one such incident that occurred in Elk Grove in the month of December, where these people were the difference. In December, a 911 call was placed to the Elk Grove Police Department Dispatch Center for an unconscious, unresponsive male patient. The call to 911 began the building of a chain of survival. The Elk Grove Police Department dispatch immediately aired the call to patrol officers and then transferred the call to the Sacramento Regional Fire and EMS Communications Center. Officer Andrew Stewart from the Elk Grove Police Department was close to the call and began responding. Officer Stewart, I'd like to call you up to the podium. Officer Stewart has been a sworn officer for 9 years and has been with the Elk Grove Police Department for the past 3.5 years. He is currently assigned to the Detectives Division. Although the police department is primarily responsible for law enforcement, the training of patrol officers in life-saving measures provides an immediate response for life-saving intervention in calls such as this. The family member of the patient on scene was immediately connected to the Sacramento Regional Fire and EMS Communications Center, where emergency medical dispatchers stand ready to provide life-saving skills over the phone. I would like to introduce to you now Emergency Medical Dispatcher Don Gaffney and Dispatcher Communications Center Training Officer Anna Meyer. Please step up to the podium. Ms. Gaffney and Ms. Meyer, along with all of the line personnel working at the Sacramento Regional Fire and Emergency Communications Center, are specially trained in providing life-saving information over the phone to those in need. SRF ECC dispatchers also simultaneously alert resources nearly 200,000 times a year in Sacramento County. In 2016, these dispatchers have played a key role in the saving over 179 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests where pulses were regained with the patient prior to arrival at the hospital. While emergency crews were responding to the scene, Ms. Gaffney and Ms. Meyer provided instructions to the family on scene to initiate CPR. While the family was working to save their loved one, Officer Stewart arrived on scene and immediately engaged in professional level CPR. The next link in the chain of survival is advanced cardiac life support. I would like to call to the podium now the Cosumnes Fire Department personnel who responded to the call that night. Engine 74 and Medic 76 personnel, Captain Paramedic Brian Zender, Firefighter Brian Flynn, Firefighter Paramedic Benjamin Quentmeyer, Firefighter Paramedic Graham Owen, and who's not with us tonight because of another engagement is Firefighter Paramedic Brian Lucero. The Cosumnes Fire Department provides fire, rescue, and emergency medical services to the cities of Elk Grove, Galt, and the unincorporated areas of Sacramento County. All of the fire engines, trucks, and ambulances are staffed with paramedics who are licensed to provide this specialized advanced cardiac life support. They provide members of the community who are in distress with life-saving medications, medical procedures, and equipment, along with rapid transport to the hospital. This team of professionals standing behind me, police officers, medically trained 911 dispatchers, and professional firefighter paramedics provided continuous care for the citizen of Elk Grove. This team of rescuers was able to reestablish pulses prior to transport to the hospital, and then working with the South County Cardiac Center, Kaiser South, were able to improve the patient's condition over time. I now ask Police Chief Brian Noblet, Fire Chief Tracy Hansen, Deputy Chief Mike McLaughlin, and Mr. and Mrs. Bernard Walker and their family to join us, as Mr. Bernard Walker was the recipient of all these professionals' work. He's here tonight to share, he's here tonight with us to express his appreciation to our first responders, and we want to recognize our responders for being the difference. So Officer Stewart, would you step forward for us here? Come on.
Let's give a hand to these first responders.
Zender.
Hello, I'm Kelly Walker. I'm Bernard Walker's one of his daughters, and we just are so pleased and so thankful. I just wanted to say a few words to you all. As a family, we have always taken a real-life approach to dealing with life and death. As certain as you live, you will certainly die. No one's escaped it yet. We know that. But December 8th, 2016 opened that discussion up again in a very real way for our family. That morning, I got a weird panic call, but it was calm from my mom. She was saying the EMTs were there, and she was trying to give our dad CPR. The EMT said he's still with us, and we're on our way to the hospital. Gasp sigh as we ran out the door to the hospital to get to Daddy. He had been battling with some issues since about August, so we were aware that he was kind of in a precarious situation. Again, he had had this life and death talk. We're a family that likes to be prepared, and we've been blessed. But we know how sudden death and other tragedies can really turn things upside down for families. So needless to say, we were prepared, but not really prepared to live without him. Thank God for all of the first responders, the dispatchers who helped my mom maintain her composure as she performed life-saving CPR on our daddy, the police and fire personnel who went above and beyond in their calls of duty, who were all prepared. Their professionalism, dedication to their jobs, and working on him until he reached the hospital saved his life. He made it through his crisis, and we are so blessed we can share his story. I want you to know that every encounter he's had over the past several months with first responders, ER personnel, hospital staff, even as he was in crisis, he made it a point to tell them how much he really appreciated you all, and he really sincerely means it. On behalf of the entire Walker family and extended family, we offer our sincere thanks to not only my mom for helping save our daddy, who they've been married for 46 years, by the way, and my mom is also, she's also a volunteer at the Elk Grove Police Department. She's been doing that for about 6 years. So we're really proud that we can have this exchange in the community with the police department and the city. It's really exciting for us as a family. But most importantly, again, we just want to say thank you. We really, really appreciate you, and thank God for you, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Mayor Lee, this concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm tremendously proud that we truly have the best in Elk Grove, and thank you for continuing to do the good work. I'm sure my colleagues up here can agree that this is not easy work, and you're taken away from your family at odd times of the night, but yet you stand tall and you continue to do this. This certainly is a thankless job, and I think it's nice to every once in a while see the folks that you impact. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Sun?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to commend all our emergency responders again as well. We extremely grateful for all your service and hard work. Obviously, there's plenty of reward when you see a good outcome like this. It's great to see you up and around, sir. And I want to thank you for your service on our VIPS program as well. So, best wishes to you.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Battalion Chief, excellent job on bringing this forward. Congratulations to all of you. But, Mr. Walker, it's great to see you. And absolutely.
Absolutely.
And your daughter did you and your family justice on an excellent presentation on behalf of the family. Very beautiful and very touching. And I really appreciate you honoring us today to come in and celebrate you being with us. Thank you.
Councilwoman? Councilman? You're good? Okay.
Once again, guys, hey, if you see me, you can always talk to me. I'm that kind of guy. I'm that kind of guy. Nice to meet you this way. Yes. This is better than I did a lot of fishing and sports and stuff, so I'm used to dealing with people, so I appreciate you guys. Again, hope to see you again. You're always welcome. Bye.
All right, I think we are ready for our next item.
The next item, item 4.2, a proclamation recognizing March 2017 as Athletic Training Month. And I'd ask Laura Jasowski, Samantha Perry, Mary Portwood, and Rod Edmiston to join Vice Mayor Detrick up at the speaker podium.
Pleasure to meet you. And Laura Jakowski,
Okay, great.
How you doing?
Good. How are you this evening?
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So we have a little award for you. You know, athletics is a huge part of my life and something that the city of Elk Grove really cherishes because healthy body, healthy mind.
Correct.
So we have a proclamation for you. I'll set it right here for now. I'm going to go ahead and read that to you. So this is a proclamation from the city of Elk Grove, National Athletic Training Month, March 2017. Athletic trainers have a long history of providing quality health care for athletes and those engaged in physical activity based on specific tasks, knowledge, and skills acquired through their nationally regulated educational processes. And athletic trainers provide for the prevention of injuries through recognition, evaluation, education, and guidance, and address injuries with aggressive treatment, healthcare administration, and rehabilitation. The National Athletic Trainers Association represents and supports 44,000 members of the athletic training profession employed in many settings, including professional sports, colleges, universities, high schools, clinics, and hospitals, corporate and industrial settings, performing arts, and military branches. And leading organizations concerned with athletic training and healthcare have joined together in common desire to raise public awareness of the importance of the athletic training profession and to emphasize the importance of quality healthcare within the aforementioned settings, and such an effort to improve healthcare for athletes and those engaged in physical activity and promote athletic trainers as health professionals. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Elk Grove hereby proclaims the month of March as National Athletic Training Month and urges the community to learn more about the importance of athletic training. Signed by the entire City Council, the 8th day of March 2017. And for me personally, athletics is pretty much always been a large part of my life. And then to continue the health, our personal health, it's been something that both me and my family participate in as well as promote. So thank you for what you and your organization does. And here's the official proclamation from the City of Elk Grove. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And then want to get a little photo up behind you.
I'll say something.
Well, let me get a picture. And then, okay. Let's get a picture real quick and then.
Put you in the middle.
Okay. Oh, let's see. Let's put you. How about that?
Mayor Lee, members of council, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Rod Edmiston, and I'm the District Athletic Director for the Elk Grove Unified School District. We at the Elk Grove School District take great pride in being leaders in not only academics but athletics. For the current 2016-17 school year, we decided to hire and place certified athletic trainers in all 9 of our high schools. the results have been overwhelmingly positive, and the gratitude we've had from the parents and the community for installing more safety for our student athletes is great. So once again, I thank you for having me here again tonight, and good evening.
My name is Samantha Perry. Thank you for having me this evening. I am one of the certified athletic trainers working in Elk Grove Unified High School District. And this is the first year that the district has had an athletic trainer placed in all 9 schools, providing medical treatment and oversight to student athletes. During the month of March, athletic trainers across America are being recognized for their commitment to helping people prevent injuries while staying healthy and positive. We are healthcare professionals, highly educated and dedicated to the job at hand, and we thank you, the community, for allowing us to do our part in that. Lastly, there is a current assembly bill labeled AB 1510 that, if passed, would allow licensure for athletic trainers. We encourage you to be part of this collective voice, supporting this bill so that Governor Bill will consider it once it arrives at his desk. Thank you so much for the recognition for National Athletic Training Month and our profession as a whole. Your protection is our priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item.
Take us to Section 5, our public comment.
Public comment. We have Tom Shine. Step on up, and right after Tom is Aileen Murphy Hassan.
Mayor and council members, it's my privilege to be before you tonight and to address a couple of topics. First of all, I just want to express my family's appreciation for your efficiency and your guidance for the community of Elk Grove, and also for the management and the department directors and their staff for their effective carrying out of the needs of satisfying the needs of the city. I'm here for two purposes here this evening. One is I want to clarify or add to an article written in the Elk Grove Citizen on the 22nd of last month. The author was Lance Armstrong. It's an excellent article. I just want to add something to it to where we fully understand ramifications of opening Rubia Drive, which I hear rumbling in the background. And each of you have been provided results of our survey report in August. That was prepared in anticipation of this kind of rumbling. The quality of life on Rubia Drive has been greatly improved since the closure. The closure caused by the construction of the roundabout at Waterman and Sheldon Roads. I've noticed that the traffic volume on Sheldon Road has increased significantly because of the ease of getting through that intersection now. So that roundabout is functioning well. As you see with the handout or the report that I gave you, we only had one person out of the 32 residents, or one family out of 32 residents on Rubia Drive that did not respond favorably to keeping it closed. And this is why I'm here tonight. What we have is a situation, or one or two, maybe 3 residents who have been somewhat inconvenienced because of the roundabout, and their effort to open Rubia is a matter of their convenience as opposed to the safety of the 32 families living on Rubia Drive. With that, I see my time is running out here. I just encourage the council and Public Works to support the continued closure of Rubia Drive to pass-through traffic. Lastly, I just want to talk about the general conditions of the roads. And I see as a result of our significant rainfall, we've had some accelerated deterioration to our roads, and it's becoming quite significant in some areas. I just ask your support, your budget support for requests from Public Works for repair of our roads. I thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Eileen Murphy Hassan.
Tom, they've got a pretty aggressive repair program going on. In fact, Bob, our Public Works Director, just sent us an email of exactly what you're talking about, the acceleration, and then we're on top of it.
Well, I expect you to be on top of it. You know, that's true to your form.
Thank you.
I thank you for that information.
Following this speaker is Lynn Wee.
Good evening. My name is Alianne Murphy Hassan, Second VP, Greater Sacramento NAACP, and also an Elk Grove resident. I'm here on behalf of the Greater Sacramento NAACP and the President, Betty Williams, to thank you for your speedy decision to do an audit on the hiring activities in Elk Grove. And I'm also here to invite you to the first annual the 35th annual NAACP prayer breakfast, which takes place on April the 14th. And I think you all have a flyer in front of you. So we hope that we see you there. Again, we want to thank you for your speedy and response to our request to have the audit on the hiring and staffing in the Elk Grove area. Thank you.
And I want to thank you for the invitation. My only dilemma is I work right at 7:30, and I was just trying to figure out how I would balance that with my day job. But I'll see what I can do. I would love to attend, but in the event that I don't, it's because I can't get time off.
Well,
so,
send a representative.
yeah, I'll consider that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we are timely. We start at 7:30 and we do end at 9:30 a.m. We are timely, so you won't miss that much time from your job.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Lynn Wee. Ms. Wee?
Good evening, Lynn Wheat, Citizen Planner, and I'm here with an announcement tonight. I want to share with you and any that would be watching and those in the audience that this Friday night from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Wackford Center in the Poppy Room, there will be a meeting in regards to the draft environmental impact report for the Kammer 99 Sphere of Influence. This is approximately 1,200 acres that a developer is looking at getting into our city limits for development. And as we're looking at branding for our city, I think it's important that we be aware of what the future holds. This particular developer is looking at putting homes out there. So I think it's really important for people to come to have an understanding of what's going on and to be able to ask them questions of the LAFCO people. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Seeing that there are no additional speakers, next item, please.
Be Section 6, our general administration information.
Thank you, Jason. Mayor and council members, first, I'd like to lead off with the closure of Franklin Boulevard that's been closed since March 1st for emergency pavement repair work. I'd like to invite Ross Gould from SMUD to talk with you all about what's been going on in that area. You also have a report in the report, but I'd like for y'all to hear it straight up from Mr. Gould. Thank you for coming.
Mayor Lee, council members, my name is Ross Gould. I'm the Director of Power Generation at SMUD. As you know, last Thursday, the public noticed that the pavement on the southbound lanes of Franklin Boulevard, just south of Elk Grove Boulevard, had sunk, and there were some issues with the traffic. We received an Underground USA notice to come mark our pipeline through that area, and correctly, when the technician showed up, he identified that our pipeline ran through the area where the ground had settled. Our first response to that was we need to make sure that the pipe itself, which runs through that area, had not moved. So we set about, over the weekend, doing 5 potholes and brought a surveyor to check to make sure that the pipe was exactly where it was supposed to be, and which would have allowed us to just repack the dirt and repave over top of it. Unfortunately, when the report came back on Sunday afternoon, the pipe itself had shifted. In some areas, very small amount, 6 inches, but in 2 readings from the surveyor, it had shifted about a foot. That's still within the boundaries of our engineering guidelines for operating the pipe, but it caused us enough concern that we wanted to go farther and do our due diligence to make sure that the pipe wasn't going to continue to move. So the next step in our process, we expanded the scope of the survey marks. So we went out 300 feet in either direction to make sure that there weren't any other areas of concern. And we have hired an internal line inspection company to come and put a deformation tool through the pipeline as a safety precaution to make sure that the pipe is still where it's supposed to be in the shape that it's supposed to be, and there are no safety concerns. At this point, there's no indication that there's any safety concern whatsoever. We're just doing due diligence on our pipeline, but we're not willing to release it back to service until we get the final report from the ILI tool. That survey will happen over the weekend. The tool itself is coming from Oklahoma. They are driving through the night to get here. The advanced crew is getting on a plane. They've already arrived. They'll be setting up the predecessor markings, above ground markers, to track the tool as it runs past the area, and then the actual run will happen over the weekend. So by the time we come back at the end of the weekend, we should have the final report, and we will know what the next steps are. Hopefully the next steps are just put it back together and move on. But I can't make that statement until we get the results. So that's where we're at right now. This is just due diligence, safety first, making sure that everything is where we expect it to be. Any questions?
Questions? Good one. Vice Mayor.
Could you describe the size of the pipe, what you're pushing through it, and what pressure it's at if it's gas?
This is pipeline natural gas. It's a 24-inch pipe, and it holds 800 pounds of pressure. Its maximum allowable operating pressure is 812.5 pounds. Currently, it's operating at approximately 650 pounds. We have the first thing we did after we got the survey results back was we lowered the pressure in the system to make sure that it's 20% below its maximum allowable operating pressure. That's just our first most conservative reaction to finding an anomalous piece of information. Just first reduce pressure, then go back and check. So we're operating that pipeline at 650 pounds pressure right now.
Well, I appreciate that and the concerns you're taking, because I don't think people have any idea what a catastrophic incident we could have with failure of gas at that pressure.
Yes, we take that very seriously.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions? No questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Secondly, to let everyone know that our Economic Development Department, in conjunction with Visit Elk Grove, is in the process of developing a brand for marketing Elk Grove to our future residents, visitors, and businesses. North Star Destination Strategies was hired to conduct research as a part of this project, and we have opened a community-wide online survey to seek input from Elk Grove residents and businesses. The survey can be found at www.brandelkgrove.com. All who live and work in Elk Grove are invited to encourage to participate, and the survey needs to be completed by March the 25th. On March 18th, the Elk Grove Historical Society and the Red Door Antique Store will partner once again to host the 4th annual Vintage Trailer Show and Antique Flea Market, and it'll be held at Old Town Plaza. The event will be on there from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is $5 per person, and the portion of the proceeds will benefit the Historical Society. Speaking of Old Town Plaza, the work on the resurfacing on the plaza and constructing a permanent restroom building will begin on March the 24th. The weekly Farmers Market and Food Truck Mania events will move to the southern part of the property off of Grove Street during the resurfacing work. Phase 1 improvements are expected to be completed in June, and folks can get more details about the project on the capital improvement page of the city's website. A couple of reminders. One, the city's Youth Commission will host a special event this Saturday from 10 to 2 here in the council chambers. Their program is called Making an Impact. The event will feature speakers and presentations that will motivate and inspire teens interested in making an impact on their own life within the community and with others. Also, to remind folks about the State of the City upcoming on March the 30th at 6 o'clock at the Falls Events Center, where Mayor Lee will provide us with the annual State of the City speech. And it will also be broadcast on our website as well. Another reminder that the Elk Grove Gauntlet will occur on April 15th in front of City Hall. This is our second annual cross-training fitness event. Team registration is now underway. Also, the city is looking for hundreds of volunteers age 18 or older to serve as course marshals and other supporting roles for the Stage 3 start of the Amgen Breakaway from Heart Disease Women's Race. That'll be here on May 13th, beginning at Elk Grove Regional Park. Moving to the standing city initiatives update with regard to the Capital Southeast Connector, the Joint Powers Authority authorized the release of the environmental document for the section from Grant Line to Bradshaw, and this occurred at the February 24th meeting. With regard to the Camera Road widening and extension project, the administrative draft of the environmental document and technical studies are being revised based on review comments on alternatives in the two-lane phasing scenario. We just talked about the Railroad Avenue property in Old Town, so that concludes the report for this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? No? No questions? All right, let's start with reports. Shall we start with Councilwoman Huynh?
First, I'd like to say Happy Women's International Day to all the women and the feminists in the room, right? We should be recognized every day for all the work that we do, but there's a day designated for us, and that happens to be today. So thank you to all the women that work in the city, at the city staff, and Laura and her team for doing such an amazing job. In the short period of time that I've been here, I've just been really impressed with everything, so I appreciate that. I was able to attend the Women's Day rally this afternoon with School Board Member Bobby Singh Allen, as well as our Assembly Member Jim Cooper. I attended a Dream It, Be It event that was put on by the Elk Grove Seroptimus Club, where it was a 4-week event for the young women that attended Sheldon High School. Was able to address them about the struggles it is to be a female, a woman, and to continue to strive and dream and do whatever they want to do, but that you can achieve it as well. I attended Mayor Lee's One Community, One Culture, very impressive, over 800 folks were there and many, many folks from the community. I was also able to attend for the first time the Straws Tea Party and brought my 6-year-old daughter, very impressive with the theme being the Wizard of Oz. And just before we came here, I attended the Cal North State University accreditation event. And that was very impressive to see that school for the first time and view the beautiful building and talk about how we can grow that university.
Councilman Hume.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended the Coach V Release Your Champion Conference held at the Falls Event Center here in town. It was a very neat event put on by a local motivator and youth sports advocate that many of us know. Many people from out of town that he drew to attend there, so I wanted to be there to show support. It was a great event, and congratulations to him. At the Connector Joint Powers Authority meeting, as the city manager mentioned, that we did approve the release of the RFP, so that's moving along, or the environmental document rather, and that's moving along very well. Nothing to report from the regional transit meeting. I attended a briefing on the design update for the animal shelter project, which is moving along very well, and so I was happy to get that update. Along with the vice mayor, judged the Teen Idol singing competition at Elk Grove High School on Friday night. That went very well. This morning attended the Sandboard meeting with the mayor, and tomorrow I have the STA meeting Thursday tomorrow afternoon, and then Sunday, leave with Councilmember Suen. We're on the Regional Executive Leadership Conference trip back to Washington, D.C. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilman Suen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I was finally released from flood operations duty at the end of last week, but we did have an opportunity to also attend Mayor Lee's One Community, One Culture event for a brief moment. Attended a silent vigil for the victims in the Kansas City shooting, attended that at the Capitol, sponsored by the India Association of Sacramento. Also had an opportunity to attend my first high tea event to benefit the Strauss Festival. That was very impressed. I was very impressed actually with all the decorations and how much passion everyone had and work that they put in to decorating their tables. And it was a great dedication to Mary Lewis and Iris Simbelman as well. Attended the Lions Club crab feed, and also had a opportunity to attend just before this meeting with most of my council here, the California North State Medical Accreditation meet and greet. For those who don't know, the California North State Medical School is up for their accreditation. They're having great success in our community as being one of the first privately funded medical school since I believe it was 1914, and we wish them continued and ongoing success. And as Councilman Hume mentioned, we leave soon for our regional advocacy trip that's sponsored by the Cal Asian Chamber of Commerce and Region Business. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Detra.
Also wanted to recognize all the women internationally. I actually posted that up on Facebook this morning. And I do recognize my wife every single day and night. Also attended Mayor Lee's event, as was mentioned earlier, phenomenal event. Thank you for doing that. The Sacramento Metro Cable Commission meeting was canceled for this month. Teen Idol was mentioned, Strauss Tea was that as well. I also went to the Lions Club annual crab feed. Lions do a phenomenal job here in Elk Grove, and they cross over into so many different parts. In fact, I thought it was very interesting. I'd never heard this before, but their best records that they have served every single school in Elk Grove at one time or another, whether it was a barbecue or a pancake breakfast. And that's a pretty daunting statistics, because I guess there's probably close to 50 schools in the Elk Grove School District, so very impressive. And then the last thing I have is if I could get consensus from my fellow council members. Back in 2012, we did a resolution relative to pre-qualifications on folks wanting to do public works projects. And I know I've had conversations with Councilman Suen and our public work director and our city attorney, as well as other staff members. And I think there's some language issues that can be probably tightened up there. And I'd like to see if we could bring this back. First of all, have a meeting with some of the stakeholders to see what their issues are with the language, because one of the things we kind of found is that maybe it was an unintended consequence that the way it's written right now, somebody could actually kind of, lack of better words, cook the books on what they're trying to put through on their pre-qualifications to get a higher score. And I think we need to tighten that up to be fair to everybody who's bidding, as well as that the city of Elk Grove is getting a legitimate person. So if I can get a consensus to have staff can set up some meetings with the stakeholders and then bring something back.
I would support that. I look to my colleagues as well.
I would as well. I'm always open. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Okay. All right. That being the case, I want to just extend a thank you to all the council members who did attend the event. And I know that Councilman Hume had a conflict, and it sounded like it was a lot more fun, though.
It was work.
But nonetheless, a number of these events we attended together, so I'll waive the remainder of my report. Then let's move to the next item.
Take us to Section 8, our consent calendar items.
Okay. Want to open public comment? Seeing that there's somebody signed up, want to close public comment. Want to entertain a motion?
Move consent.
Got moved, got second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstention?
Abstain, 8.1, I wasn't here at the meeting.
For the record, you're abstaining for which item?
8.1.
8.1. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Nguyen is abstaining from 8.1. Next item.
Oh, I got to turn on my microphone. Section 9 are public hearings, starting with item 9.1, which is actually 4 public hearings to consider the 41st annexation to CFD 2003-2 for police services, 41st annexation to Community Facilities District 2006-1 for maintenance services, 32nd annexation to Street Maintenance District 1, Zone 3U, and the 16th annexation to Stormwater Drainage Fee Zone 2.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank Kara for a gripping staff presentation on this item. If you'd like to move straight to public comment, I'd be happy to make a motion.
All right.
I'm open to any and all questions, but I can also waive the presentation.
Great job, Kara. Excellent job. All right. At this point, want to declare a public hearing for CFD 2003-2 open. Want to open public comment opportunity. Seeing that there are no speakers signed up to speak, want to close public comment. I want to declare the public hearing for 2003-2 closed, and we'll entertain a one.
I'll move to adopt the resolution calling the special election.
Okay, got a motion,
Second.
got a second? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstention?
Motion A2.
Got a motion for A2?
Before we go too much further,
Tally ballot, sorry.
Oh, that's right.
I just want to say is
Let's
of
request for the
nine-
results of the ballot
yeah,
tabulation.
The results of that tabulation. Of the 98 possible votes, 98 affirmative votes were cast, authorizing the city of Elk Grove to levy a special tax at the rate apportioned and described. The measure passes with more than 2/3 of all votes cast in the election in favor of the measure, and a resolution declaring the results of the election is available for council consideration.
Okay.
Motion A2.
There we go.
Got a motion, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstention? All right. next
Motion A3, introduce and waive the full reading by substitution of title only, an ordinance levying and apportioning the special tax and territory annexed to Community Facilities District Number 2003-2 Police Services, annexation number 41, and amending the Elk Grove Municipal Code, section 3.18.010.
Second.
Got a motion, second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstention? And let's see. At this point, I want to declare a public hearing for CFD 2006-1 open. Want to open public comment. Seeing that there are no speakers signed up to speak, I want to close public comment. I want to declare the public hearing for CFD 2006-1 closed. And next motion.
Motion B1.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? And want to request the results of the ballot tabulation.
And on this one, of 103 possible votes, 103 affirmative votes were cast, authorizing the city of Elk Grove to levy a special tax to the rate apportioned and described. The measure passes with more than 2/3 of all votes cast in the election in favor of the measure. A resolution declaring the results of the election is available for council consideration.
Move to adopt that resolution.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Next motion.
Move to introduce and waive the full reading by substitution of title only, an ordinance levying and apportioning the special tax and territory annexed to Community Facilities District Number 2006-1 Maintenance Services, annexation number 41, and amending the Elk Grove Municipal Code, section 3.19.1010.
Second.
Got a motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? All right, at this point, we'll declare public hearing for SMD 1 Zone 3-U open. Want to open for public comment, seeing that there are no one signed up to speak. Want to close public comment and want to declare public hearing for SMD 1 Zone 3-U close. Request clerk to provide results of the ballot tabulation.
There is no majority protest of 98 possible votes weighted according to the proportional financial obligation for each equivalent dwelling unit. 98 affirmative votes were returned. The ballot approves the proposed assessment of the proposed inflation adjustment limit described for the parcel identified in the ballot. Resolution determining to levy assessments in the districts available for council consideration.
Okay, I'll entertain motion.
Adopt that resolution.
Got a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? All right. See, at this point, I want to declare the public hearing for SDF Zone 2 open. I want to open for public comment, seeing that there are no speakers signed up. I want to close public comment. I want to declare the public hearing for SDF Zone 2 closed. Mr. Clerk, if you can read the results for the ballot tabulation.
And again, there's no majority protest of 103 possible votes, weighted according to the proportional financial obligation for each equivalent dwelling unit or acreage. 103 affirmative votes were returned. Ballot approves the proposed assessment and the proposed inflation adjustment limit described for the parcels identified in the ballot. Resolution determining the levy assessments in the districts available for council consideration.
Motion D.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstention? And next item.
Take us to section 10, our regular agenda action items, starting with item 10.1, which is to consider addressing homelessness through the Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Sarah Bontrager, your Housing and Public Services Manager. Tonight we'll be talking about the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That program is a rental assistance program providing very low-income households with a subsidy to rent housing from private landlords primarily. The program is governed by the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, who has relegated the authority to administer the program to the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, which we sometimes call Section 8, which was its former name, it covers all of Sacramento County. So someone who receives a voucher for use in Elk Grove receives it through the county's program and can use it in other locations within Sacramento County as well. So the background to this item is that regionally there has been a good deal of discussion about homelessness in recent months. And in January, the county and the city held a joint meeting to discuss homelessness. And one of the topics at that meeting was a discussion of whether the Housing Choice Vouchers should be a part of the homeless solution. Currently, they are a component of the solution, but not to the extent that they could be. So after much discussion and public feedback at that meeting, the County Board of Supervisors requested that SHRA solicit feedback from the public and from some of the local jurisdictions to understand better how different voucher strategies might affect them. So the County Board of Supervisors is anticipated to meet again on March 21st to discuss the voucher program among other homeless services options. And so the city has been asked to provide feedback to the board on what options we might prefer for them to consider. So I'll give you a little bit of background on the Housing Choice Vouchers. There are two types of vouchers. The tenant-based voucher is received by the applicant, and they can use that voucher anywhere where the landlord will accept the voucher. They pay 30% of their income towards housing, and the Section 8 program makes up the difference between that and the fair market rent for the unit. The second type of voucher that there is a project-based voucher. This voucher stays with the unit, so even if the tenant moves out of the unit, the next tenant who moves into that unit will be able to take advantage of the subsidy. Most of the vouchers that are available throughout the county are tenant-based vouchers. There's currently about 12,000 countywide, of which 8% or 900 are being used in Elk Grove. The vouchers turn over at a rate of about 600 annually, and currently SHRA maintains a wait list of 70,000 households. About 3,700 of those households are Elk Grove residents. And currently the vouchers are allocated based on certain preferences. There are 4 preferences: live or work in Sacramento County, veteran status, depending on the project, disabled or senior status, and rent burdened, which means that the household is paying more than 50% of its income towards rent. Obviously, being rent burdened is a challenge for homeless families or individuals to meet because they don't have a rent payment. So we've talked about 4 strategies. Staff has met with SHRA. We've talked with staff at the City of Sacramento and at the County of Sacramento, and we've talked through 4 strategies. So the first strategy is called the general preference strategy. What this would do is basically add homelessness to the list of preferences. So live, work in Sacramento, disabled, senior, homeless would be on that list. It would allow homeless to self-certify, and so anyone who said that they were homeless could receive that preference. So we don't feel that that's the best option for the community because self-certification could lead to fraud, people saying that they're homeless to take advantage of a higher spot on the wait list. And it also would likely significantly restrict non-homeless households' ability to secure a voucher. So the second strategy that we've talked about is the limited preference strategy. What this would do is set aside a certain percentage or number of turnover vouchers specifically to address homelessness. This strategy would require an independent third-party verification of homelessness and also would require households taking advantage of that preference to work with a social service agency, which would help them to be rent-ready and find housing where the landlord would accept the voucher. So under this strategy, it increases the level of assistance that's provided to the homeless, but it wouldn't necessarily exclude non-homeless from the program. It would reduce the number of vouchers available for them, but likely would not take all of the vouchers. And the connection to the social services increases the chances that people will be able to maintain the housing that they find through the program and not fall back into homelessness. So another option that's available to us is project-based vouchers. This would allocate vouchers to specific apartments within complexes. The vouchers would be allocated to complexes that have on-site social services. So we staff like some aspect of this option in that it addresses one of the challenges that we see in the rental market right now, which is that landlords have so many choices of tenants, they do not have to rent to housing choice voucher recipients, and so often they don't. It can be very hard for a voucher user to find a unit. So in this scenario, the landlord has agreed to accept voucher users exclusively. The on-site services are easily accessible, so that that helps folks to improve their situation and hopefully be able to move out of the housing. So, and the final strategy that we've discussed is a move-on voucher strategy. So currently, there's a limited supply of permanent supportive housing throughout the county. This housing comes with some really intensive social services and case management, including substance abuse treatment and other services. It's very expensive housing to run, and folks tend not to leave the housing because they don't have anywhere else to go that's affordable for them. So under this scenario, the tenants in permanent supportive housing who no longer needed those intensive social services would receive a voucher to rent housing without those services and basically free up a spot for someone who really did need those services. So we find that that's a cost-effective option for trying to make sure that we're funneling our limited permanent supportive housing to the people who need it the most. So some of the strategies can be combined. So I've showed you on this table here, I've shown which of the strategies. So you can choose either general preference or limited preference, and then you could also choose to add in the project-based vouchers and the move-on vouchers strategy. So the staff recommendation is for a limited preference, project-based voucher, and move-on voucher strategy. We would recommend that the council allocate up to 50% of the turnover vouchers to those three options. Among those three options, it's likely that the county or SHRA would look on an annual basis to see which of what allocation amongst those strategies made the most sense. And so the resolution before the council tonight is to encourage the county to choose those three options and allocating up to 50% of the turnover. So about 300 vouchers a year, leaving 300 vouchers a year to serve the existing wait list of folks who are not currently homeless, but many of whom are very close to homelessness due to their housing instability. So that is my recommendation. I am happy to answer any questions that you have. I do know there are probably a few speakers signed up. We do have SHRAs here to answer any questions you might have, as well as representatives from the city and the County Board of Supervisors and the County Department of Human Assistance. So.
Okay. Questions? Councilman Sun?
Sarah, hi, thank you. Thank you for that report. Obviously, we talked a little beforehand, and this may be more appropriate to SHRA, so please don't hesitate to defer. But just for the public, I'd like you to review some of the things we discussed, and that is, the demographics of the homelessness versus the 70,000 or even 3,700 as it pertains to Elk Grove, and then I guess maybe the uncertainty regarding the direct effects to the city of Elk Grove, in the sense that how we control who's benefiting or who's in line for these vouchers as we're competing, or lack of a better term, competing with other people that are in line in other jurisdictions. So maybe if you could explain the uncertainty surrounding that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the county maintains so SHRA maintains a countywide wait list for housing choice vouchers. And so every approximately 2 to 5 years, they open that wait list, and anyone throughout Sacramento County can apply for that. The wait list, there's usually a lottery to get on the wait list, so you need to win the lottery just to get on the wait list of 70,000 folks. And then wait for your name to come up. So Elk Grove residents receive equal access to that wait list. Demographically, our community is a little bit wealthier than the county as a whole, and so we do see that that our percentage of Section 8 users and folks on the wait list is a little bit lower than our percentage share of the county's population. So in regards to your other note about the demographics, the region has spent, in coordination with Sacramento Steps Forward, the last several years creating what we call the community queue, and that is a list of homeless households who are waiting for assistance. My understanding is that the demographics of that list are a little bit different, or quite a bit different, than the wait list for housing choice vouchers. And so any decisions that are made regarding prioritization need to make sure that that those decisions don't have a disparate impact on any particular group.
And the people that are in the queue, we don't know whether there's 5 Elk Grove people in line and a Citrus Heights person, or we just don't know.
Currently, the queue has about 3,900 households on it. It's regularly called for those who have not had contact with a caseworker. I don't know the exact number of Elk Grove households that are on that. At our last meeting, we discussed adding a navigator, which will certainly help to make sure that Elk Grove's homeless are equally represented or equally put on that list, so that they can receive services up to and including any benefits that are provided through a limited preference in the voucher system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Nguyen?
Sarah, I noticed that there's a meeting on March 21st at the County Board of Supervisors, and maybe this might be a question for our Supervisor Natoli, is that depending on what we decide today, is that what's being brought back, and then the county is going to put a plan together regionally, or, I feel like this is coming to us at a last-minute thing, and I feel like we need more time to look through this and talk about it and figure out what's best for our city as well. What I don't want to see is that we give these slots up and it affects folks from our city as well. And then we're going back to them being on the homeless list, and how do we assist them, or do we have to wait until that list tightens up a little bit? But then, I almost feel like we're trading in a sense of we're putting our folks at risk of becoming homeless that are already on the list, and it's moving them down further.
Well, it is a mixed benefit. We do have some folks who are homeless in our city. In fact, of the 3,700 folks who are on the list from Elk Grove currently, about 20% of them stated that they were homeless. So certainly there would be an opportunity for Elk Grove homeless to be served through the program. But it is true that with the limited preference for homeless, it does cut down on the number of turnover vouchers for the non-homeless, and there are many of those in Elk Grove as well. As to what the county will be considering on March 21st, I'm sure Supervisor Natoli can speak more to that. But my understanding is that they will be considering a range of homeless options. And as the governing body for the housing authority for the county, this is one of the decisions that they'll be asked to make.
Okay. Councilman Sim?
Follow-up question. So one of our families is in line that is not yet homeless, but if we reallocate these vouchers, that family or that individual then becomes homeless. Do they then again go to the top of the queue on the homeless side that we've reallocated?
If they were working with the social service agency, I believe the answer is yes, that they could have quicker access to a voucher that way if they fell into homelessness and they were working with one of the social service agencies. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I have another question. So as we move the homelessness to the top of the list, coming from a service providing background, I know that there are continued ongoing services that is needed for this population. It's not just putting them, and this might not be something you can answer, but it's not just putting them into a home, but it's modeled around like the Navigator program, where there's somebody that's there that's helping them, that's gonna get them their ID, their social. Is that something, do we know? Because I feel like if we're putting somebody that's already homeless that doesn't have anything, what's to say that they're going to be able to make it to the next step, right, to get out of this?
And that's part of the reason that staff really prefers the limited preference option, because that allows for us to make sure that the folks who are receiving the benefit through that option are cooperating with a social service agency that will help to make sure that they remain stable, provide some level of case management to make sure that they achieve housing stability and maintain it.
I have a question. I know that a number of the homeless that are actually in the city of Elk Grove came from north of us, from Sacramento. So my anticipation is as the problem progresses in Sacramento, we're going to be seeing a lot more. And I had an opportunity to talk to the chief earlier, and it's because our city is a lot safer. I don't know, I mean, you've seen the numbers and you're in the field. Is there a homeless crisis in Sacramento?
I think there have always been homeless people in Sacramento. There have always been homeless people in Elk Grove. I think they are becoming more visible, and they can tend to move around between jurisdictions. Although what we do see is that the homeless that we have here tend to stay here. They aren't moving back and forth between Sacramento. Even if they originated in Sacramento, once they come down here, they aren't necessarily going back and forth. And part of that is that they do feel safer here. Interviews with them have shown that another key factor is that for them being in Elk Grove is that they have friends or family here. And they can get some social support even if it's not housing.
So the way I understand homeless is it's somebody who's actually out in the streets. Is that the same definition that?
The definition that we would be using for this program is still a little bit flexible. It's likely not to be the chronic homeless, which would be homeless out on the streets or living in a place not fit for human habitation for at least a year. We're probably not, this program probably isn't going to use a more flexible definition. Maybe literally homeless, just meaning you don't have a place to stay that night, or maybe even more flexible than that, which would include folks who are, say, couch surfing. So that has yet to be determined.
Just curious as well, how did you come up with 50%? Is there a formula or?
I suppose we think that that's reasonable. Obviously, the homeless have been disadvantaged in the current system because they haven't been able to qualify for the rent preference or the rent burden preference. But to take so we need to make a meaningful step towards addressing homelessness regionally, but not at the expense of all the voucher wait list, some of which are very, very close to homelessness and will probably slip into and out of homelessness over the course of the next few years.
Okay. I don't know, just thinking out loud here. Wouldn't it be logical to make sure that we take care of the homeless, address that first as a priority? I mean, thoughts?
That's a policy call. Certainly, that's a choice that you could make. If homelessness is a higher priority, or if you feel that it's time to focus specifically on homelessness for a period of time of a couple years, say, maybe that is certainly an option that's before you. At this point, we're not sure. In conversations with SHRA, I'm not sure that HUD would agree to allow all of the vouchers to be used specifically for homelessness.
So like 100%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure HUD would agree to 100% because it may have a disparate impact on certain populations from a fair housing perspective.
Have we taken the temperature on that with HUD?
I can certainly have SHRA speak to that.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, are you asking that instead of the 50% that we allocate 100%?
Well, I was just thinking out loud. I'm trying to figure out if somebody's out on the streets, that obviously has a higher priority than somebody who is managing. And if we do have a crisis, then maybe this is maybe a temporary fix. I'm not sure. Yeah. So I was just curious.
I think the vouchers are one piece of a much broader solution that's needed for homelessness. And locally, we've looked at that. Locally, we're looking at doing our own sort of voucher program, and as well as the Navigator. And regionally, I know the county is looking at a triage center and some sort of a voucher program. Hopefully, we'll see some of the No Place Like Home, the funding for homeless and mentally ill, come available. And so so the vouchers are really just one piece of a much larger solution that's needed regionally.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No? Councilwoman Nguyen? You look
I'll
like-
wait. I want to hear from everybody else. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Why don't we do this? Since we have Supervisor Natoli here, I would like to extend an invitation to you to provide some thoughts.
Hopefully you have some wisdom.
I don't know about that.
In spades.
I want to thank Mayor Lee, certainly the council. Congratulations to your newest member, Councilman Nguyen, and certainly thank you for taking this evening the opportunity to consider this. I think that Sarah did a very good job in outlining certainly, I think some of the parameters are being considered. And the reason, part of the reasons here before this evening is that when we had the joint City of Sacramento, County of Sacramento meeting a few weeks ago, and it was about a 6-hour meeting, so probably, like some of yours goes close to midnight. A lot of information, and out of that certainly came, I think, certainly commentary from my colleagues on the board and fellow colleagues on the Sacramento City Council. Mayor Steinberg and I convened the meeting and co-chaired it. But I think one of the things that became the focus that evening, obviously, was the discussion regarding the vouchers, the availability of affordable housing, and the range of options. And you have folks here in the audience this evening, I think, that could address some of the questions that each of you has posed to Sarah, and she certainly answered to the best of her ability. But we do have Lachelle Dozier and Sarah and Jeff Ross from the Housing Agency. You also have representatives, Emily Halcyon from representing the City of Sacramento, and then Paul Lake from the County of Sacramento, who could, I think, fill in some of the gaps. I would say, though, that what is coming back to us on March 21st is the result of better than a year's worth of work as it relates to discussion around the issue of homelessness, the programs that are currently offered and provided through the County of Sacramento, through partner agencies, certainly through the work that your jurisdiction does in trying to address some of the issues in your respective community, but throughout the County of Sacramento. And earlier last summer and through the fall, right up and through December, the Board of Supervisors had several different workshops where we had experts actually come in from Los Angeles and from other areas in the state, but also work done by our homeless coordinator, Cindy Kavanaugh, who has been not only compiling statistics, but looking at the utilization of monies, many tens of millions of dollars of our taxpayer dollars. Some of that comes back to federal and state sources, other local dollars. Much of it certainly comes through from the housing standpoint, the Housing Authority and Housing Redevelopment Agency, both the city and County of Sacramento. But I think it's really important, and Sarah covered this, is that the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the 12,000 vouchers are available and portable countywide. And so we, as Board of Supervisors, and I don't think there was any disagreement by certain members of the City Council, but we asked county staff and certainly the agency staff to come forward and talk with all of our member jurisdictions, our partners, because, again, in looking at the entirety of the county and certainly knowing no boundaries as it relates to cities or unincorporated area, we wanted to be sure that what might be contemplated on March 21st as a piece of what we're going to be presented to us, that you were, one, certainly informed of that, but also had a chance to weigh in. And I would just say that I had the opportunity to join with the same cast of folks that are here this evening at the Rancho Cordova City Council meeting on Monday night, and they too had questions and deliberated, and they're going to come back on their March 20th meeting. But the idea is to reach out because, again, the homeless issue doesn't know boundaries, and it may be relative to the size of the jurisdiction, the number of folks who are homeless at any given point in time. And I think this issue that some of you raised relative to the existing waiting lists and the queue that's there, the amount of turnover in any given year, that is part of what we'll be discussing. But there will also be a comprehensive package. I'm going to invite Paul Lake, if the mayor would allow it, to just maybe give you a brief overview of what's going to be coming in that package, because we'll be looking at utilization of county resources, transitional programs, emergency shelter programs, the opportunity for a triage shelter, certainly the vouchers and their utilization and how they fit in that overall program. And we'll have some policy direction coming out of that meeting, which will then lead up to budget discussions certainly later in the spring and on into the summer. And so that's, though, the purpose certainly of this evening, though, is to focus on the vouchers, because there's been a public process that will lead up to a staff report, and Lachelle can point this out, that will go to the Housing Redevelopment Commission next week, and then be embodied in the staff report that will come forward to the County of Sacramento Board of Supervisors on March 21st. So, again, I welcome your input. However you put that, whether it's in a resolution, in a letter, other commentary, I think it's important for me and my colleagues to know certainly not only what's on the minds of our colleagues in the City of Sacramento, but in the City of Elk Grove, City of Rancho Cordova, and the other cities in the County of Sacramento. And if you like,
Vice Mayor?
Paul Lake. Yes, Steve.
Not sure if you can answer it, but if not, I'm sure maybe somebody else can. Maybe I missed it, but is there a ratio based on population on those vouchers?
Not that I'm aware of, and I'd ask Lachelle. I think, again, at one time, there were vouchers that were allotted to the City of Sacramento and to the County of Sacramento, and of course, some of that, the programmatic elements may have preceded even the incorporation of, certainly the cities of Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova and Elk Grove. And there is public housing as a part of this, because there are public housing units that are still maintained by the Sacramento Housing Authority. There's both the City of Sacramento Housing Authority and the County Housing Authority. But I don't know there's a particular ratio that says that in any given year, to Sarah's numbers, that, you know, a percentage goes of the allocations in any of those categories. I think it's done on, you know, the lists and, you know, however those are rank ordered, and maybe Michelle could better answer that, but I don't think there's any apportionment that would, to Councilmember Soon's question earlier, that would say that Elk Grove would be first in line, or they'd be somewhere in the middle line or last in line. I think there's a, you know, and it's not done just alphabetically. So I maybe invite Michelle to answer that question if you're okay with that. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dozier, the Executive Director for Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. And in terms of a ratio, the one thing about the Housing Choice Voucher is the choice. And the fact that each person who receives a voucher has the opportunity to choose where they want to live. So we, in fact, are prohibited from telling them or steering them, so to speak, to one jurisdiction versus another. And that is a part of how the program works. So really, it's the participant chooses where they can use their voucher. And most participants do try to find places that has access to their social support network, to transportation, relatives. Those are types of things that tend to drive choice, and obviously where they are accepted and it's affordable.
But how do you do some type of a fair balancing of members of each community that have an opportunity? I mean, theoretically, you could have all the people in Sacramento get 100% of the vouchers.
Theoretically, but the reality is that people want to live in all kinds of communities. I mean, we serve a very diverse mix of housing, and it's just like anyone else who's on the private rental market. You know, people have that opportunity.
But you're talking about people, you're talking about the after effect. I'm talking about when you look at how is there an allocation based on population of each city that's contributing into these programs?
Yeah, the allocation is based countywide. It's not based by the separate jurisdictions. So that's how we receive our funding from HUD.
So there, again, theoretically, you could say, we're going to give this all to Sacramento City.
No, we cannot do that. We cannot theoretically say that they can go to any one particular place or another. The participant is the one who makes the choice of where they live.
Maybe I'm not being clear. I'm not talking about the choice afterwards. I'm talking about the choice of the people that are represented. So if there's people from Elk Grove, let's say we have 10% of the total county, theoretically you should get 10% of the vouchers. Then where they choose to live is another story, but at least the people that are here are being served in a fair manner.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, there seems to be something flawed in the system.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. It's kind of the way the allocation is made. It's made countywide. It's not made by the separate jurisdictions, but I do understand what you're saying. Now, we do allow people to make decisions that in the project basing, which is what Sarah talked about, that is specific to different sites that may be within a particular jurisdiction. But the way the federal funding is that it comes to the county and gives people that flexibility to move.
It might be helpful, Michelle, just maybe to the point too, though, when the lists are developed, because there is this brief enrollment period, call for applications, is that first come, first serve? Is it based upon need? Is there some sorting of that? And because that might be relevant to how folks from any part of the county would get on that list with their address where they may reside at that point in time. So.
Right. So when we open the list, which is what Supervisor Natoli is saying, the list is actually open for a period of time, and everyone applies. The last time we did that, 46,000 people applied in a 2-week time frame. And then from there, we actually do a lottery. So you have an equal chance, depending on where you live, to end up on that particular list. Does that kind of get to what you're saying in terms of people's ability to access it?
I guess my question was the selection process. So you answered the selection process. In fact, Sarah did mention lottery earlier, and I did forget that part. So thanks for the clarification.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't quite drill to what you needed.
Councilman Sim?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on a question the mayor posed earlier about what I thought I heard Sarah say is HUD may have an issue if 100% of the vouchers went to homeless individuals.
That is correct. We've had conversations. They haven't given us anything official, but what they will look at is to determine if any change that we're making in terms of how we're serving families will have a disparate impact on the people who are currently waiting. So let's just say if the lists were totally exhausted and we were starting from scratch, then there's no impact because no one's waiting.
Right.
But if there are people who are currently waiting, they will look at those demographics to say, have you now disadvantaged a protected class who was in line, so to speak, by now going to this new system, which may not be representative of those who are waiting.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And obvious question, what is the potential to ask HUD for more of these vouchers?
Well, the only vouchers that we have received have been VASH, and those are vouchers specifically for veterans who are homeless. And so we have continually received that allocation. We're now up to, I believe, over 500 of those, which has had a severe impact on the number of veterans that we're seeing on the street. We work in connection with the VA. So out of the previous administration, that was a huge push, and that was the only incremental increase we saw. With our current administration, I would say that that is probably not on the table for getting any new allocations.
Okay, thank you.
I think we will be looking at how to maintain what we have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can the argument be made that, let's assume that 100% of these vouchers went to homeless. Can the argument be made that this is a safety net in the event that somebody falls off the waiting list and becomes homeless? Can that argument be made towards HUD?
I think that argument could be made, but I think also HUD would be looking at the list to see, does your list actually reflect individuals who are homeless? And what we do know is that people who are on the list, there is a certain percentage by the time we get to you and pull you that they have already fallen into homelessness. And our experience does show us the longer you stay on the list, the more likely it is that you will become homeless. So you can't necessarily say that everybody on that list is not homeless. Or will experience homelessness. So, that's the trade-offs that you're looking at.
If you can tell me a number, how many vouchers is necessary to address completely the homeless issue in Sacramento County?
How many?
Yeah.
Well, the last point in time count, how many? 2,600, but there were 20? Yeah, so I guess there's around 3,900 or so. And it's an issue of really taking a look at your homeless population and really matching them with what works in terms of services. So a voucher really only gives them the opportunity to go and search. It doesn't guarantee that you have housing. What we see currently with our families is that because the rental market is so constricted, it's taking longer and longer for them to locate housing. We're probably now up to about 5 months for someone to actually locate a housing landlord who will accept the voucher after it has been issued. So I think that's something that has to be taken into consideration, and that's why we are talking about how do we attach these services to really help assist people even when they have the voucher.
I see. Okay.
What is the average wait time for somebody that is on the list?
The average wait time can be as short as a year or less, depending on, the bedroom size if you're going into public housing. It could be years if you have been on any of the other housing choice voucher wait lists.
So you had said something that triggered a question, is that once an individual or a family receives a voucher, it takes anywhere between 5 months for them to get somebody to actually accept the voucher, for them to accept the voucher, right?
Yes.
That's somebody who isn't homeless, right? That would be like if I was on the list and you gave me the voucher and I'm going around looking and finally I found a renter that's willing to rent to me. Have we looked at what the time frame is going to be now that it's going to be somebody that is homeless? Is our renters more willing to give now to them, or What's the time frame on that? Because I can't imagine if I'm having a hard time, and it's going to take 5 months, that now we're going to give a voucher to a homeless person, that's going to be quicker and that renters are going to open up their doors for them.
Yes, obviously, they would have a lot of challenges, but that is really why the mayor has come forward with additional funding and resources to really help with that wraparound services and the social service components that will be necessary to kind of really walk that homeless person through and to really hold their hand, and then to try to create incentives for landlords to accept homeless individuals. Obviously, because it's a new program, we don't have the experience to really say what the data and the tracking would be, but that doesn't mean that we should not try.
And how many vouchers are there? Did we say how many vouchers are there regionally that we're trying to?
A total, we have approximately 12,000 vouchers, representing 12,000 families. And then what's up for discussion is what we call turnover vouchers, and those are vouchers that become available because a family may leave the program because they become self-sufficient, they may pass away, we do serve a lot of elderly individuals, or they may become non-compliant with the program. So that's how vouchers become available.
So how many is available? You said there's 12,000 regionally now. How many?
There's 12,000, and each year approximately 600 of the 12,000 become available. So a very small percentage of the total.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
You mentioned the average wait time could be less than a year or multiple years. Do you separate those to give higher priority to the people who have been on there for multiple years, or?
No, they don't get priority if they've been on there for multiple years. It's just a matter of when their name comes up to the top of the list. And those differences, I'm really combining our two programs together for discussion purposes, our public housing program as well as our voucher program. Our public housing program is the one where your name could come up much quicker if, let's say, you're on a wait list for a 5-bedroom unit, and that's just not a long list. So you may have an opportunity to get into housing quicker than you would with a list that has a high demand.
Which are the choice vouchers, right? Okay. Oh, so that once, you had, I think you mentioned 43,000 people signed up in
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. So
For
that
just the voucher
for
program,
just
not the public housing.
So the 43,000 person is just going to wait, right? I mean, is that what I'm hearing?
No, the 43,000 people, then we did a lottery from those individuals to cull it down to the list of the lucky ones who actually even made it onto the list.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the time we finally reach you, we call it the Oh Happy Day letter, because you really have beat the odds to finally get the resources that you need.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
So say, everybody decides to move forward with giving their vouchers up. Is there anything being provided to those that are on the list now? Like they're going to be told that, sorry, you've been on the list for a year now, and now you're going to have to wait even longer than that. Is there anything being offered to those folks that are on the list so that way they don't move into the, I just feel like by doing this, we're displacing them and that we're going to eventually make them homeless as well too. So is there an effort to help them?
Unfortunately, you're kind of choosing, where this limited resource is going. And so people who are currently on the list, if you look at the recommendation that your staff has made, 50% of those would then be allocated towards, individuals who are homeless. And we would also be querying people to see, are you in that category? So that then you could be a part of this limited preference or apply for the project-based, particular vouchers. But for those other individuals who don't meet this criteria, their wait time is longer because they'll just be pushed down further on the list.
And my understanding is this is a 2-year pilot program project.
That is the recommendation that is before you. Is that correct, Sarah? For 2 years?
Our resolution doesn't specify a time frame.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure if that was a county request.
No.
Any more questions? No? No more questions? All right, thank you. I want to move to public comment. I want to open public comment opportunity, and I see 2 speakers signed up. First one is Emily Halcone, and following Emily is Paul Lake.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Lee, members of the council. My name is Emily Halkin. I am the Homeless Services Coordinator with the City of Sacramento. I work out of the Office of the City Manager. And I really thank you for having me tonight and for this conversation that you're having here. I just want to add a little bit from the City of Sacramento's perspective. I'm very excited to be here tonight to really continue the discussion, as Sarah mentioned, on creating what we hope will be a comprehensive regional approach to addressing homelessness. I think we all know, and we certainly agree, that we desperately need more affordable housing opportunities for people across the spectrum. But we also know that we have a homeless crisis and people are dying on our streets every year. Last year alone, 81 people died on the streets in Sacramento County, and over the last 15 years, we lost 705 people who were living on the streets. That equates to 1 per week. And overall, homeless folks who live on the streets, their lives are cut short by about 30 years. As compared to housed populations. So from the city's perspective, our intent to be aggressive on this approach is because we don't feel we have the luxury of the time to finance and title and really build our way out of homelessness. And so given the urgency of this issue, the City of Sacramento, in partnership with the Sacramento County and our other partners throughout the county, is requesting a commitment of up to 1,600 turnover housing choice vouchers and the public housing units to provide opportunities for the most vulnerable people in our community. We also recognize that homelessness really comes in many different forms throughout all of our communities, but the one common denominator that all of these folks have is the lack of affordable housing. People that experience homelessness in our communities, the veterans, transition-age youth, families, elderly, all of them deserve an opportunity for safe and affordable housing, but historically, as Sarah mentioned, have been prevented from accessing the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And so the city's request to the Housing Authority of the county is to dedicate the turnover units for 2 years, that was one of the questions, both to correct the structural exclusion of homeless households that's historically existed, and also to help us address the immediate crisis that we're all facing. Again, another question I think one of you asked is, we also know that housing alone is not sufficient. And to that end, the City of Sacramento is ready to commit up to $5 million from our general funds, hopefully to be matched by Sutter Health and other community partners. And we're really hopeful for a possible partnership with using federal Medi-Cal dollars, really to create the necessary infrastructure of services to complement the housing vouchers. The services that we're envisioning would include things like outreach and engagement, intensive case management to meet the household where they're at and provide the services particular to their situation, housing location and support. We know this is a tight rental market for everybody, and more so for homeless folks, both to ensure the household's ability to maintain the housing, and also to give them that opportunity while they're in housing to address their other medical, familial, and social challenges they might have. Also critical from our perspective in providing incentives for the landlords. And so I'll wrap up quick. We're proposing to offer some funding to pay deposits and other rent subsidies, making staff available 24/7 as a landlord resource should there be an issue. We recognize that vouchers are only one part of a much larger collaborative system, but we're confident that we have the resources, partners, and really the political will to make sure that the service end of the system is available to support the vouchers we're asking to be reallocated. So again, I just want to thank you for your time and consideration. We know from the city that all of our communities grapple with a lot of competing interests and limited resources, and that the ask tonight that you're considering really meets at the intersection of these challenges. So I'm glad you're in those seats and not me. However, we believe that our county as a whole has a really unique opportunity to change the course of how we've been addressing homelessness, and we really appreciate your support of this effort. While the 1,600 units that we've been talking about might sound like a really dramatic shift in approach and a big leap administratively, I do want to point out that currently the lease-up rate for the Housing Choice Voucher Program is only about 5 to 10%. So of those 70,000 people on the wait list, only about 7,000 will ever actually achieve housing. However, if we create a limited preference that has the built-in social supports and housing location services, we feel that it will actually improve the flow of the system and create some efficiencies in a system that is currently really, really overburdened and really convoluted. And then finally, and most importantly, we recognize that the units that we're asking for are big ask, but they're also really a small drop in the bucket compared to the needs in our population. And the city believes that by being really aspirational and seeking the most that we can get access to will allow us as a community to start the collective effort to really make a marked impact on ending homelessness in Sacramento. So thank you. I apologize.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
A quick question.
Emily, I have a
Come
question.
on back.
Hi. First of all, thank you for coming down here
Thank
and the work that you do. We obviously recognize this whole region, especially Sacramento, has been hard hit by this. So a couple of things. One, since you've wrestled with this for a while, I'm just wondering how we were mentioning earlier about people who are on the list who are not yet homeless, that if left on that list for a long period of time could then become homeless. So how did you wrestle with that consideration? And then pertaining to that, you mentioned earlier that improves the efficiency or the flow of the system. So how does addressing homeless individuals who are not on this list, how does helping that improve the flow of this one?
So on your first question, I think the irony of your point is, and Lachelle did say, a lot of people, they wait for a long time, they become homeless. By the time you become homeless, you've now become a disadvantaged population because you can't, you are no longer a priority because you're no longer rent burdened. So it's kind of an irony of being on a list for a long time, becoming homeless. To your second point, I also wanted to add, this was a critical concern of our council, and we've wrestled with this, and it certainly doesn't necessarily feel good to say one person is more deserving than another. And so we did add into our resolution a consideration, or our requested resolution, not just for folks currently homeless, but also for folks at risk, especially families. I heard very loud and clear that that's a critical concern from my council. So I think that we can have some measurable ways to try to not only address the people currently on the streets, but also work with the populations and the data that SHRA has to identify those folks most critically and most precariously housed to prevent them from falling into homelessness. It's not a science, and it's very difficult to discern from the 250,000 people living in poverty in Sacramento County who amongst those will actually become homeless. A relatively small percentage of them will. Many of them will somehow find a way to stay above that threshold. But I think that we deserve, we owe it to the folks to try to figure out and to try to prevent what you've described.
And then
The second question was, I'm sorry, say it again.
Well, how allocating towards homeless would improve the flow of the
Sure.
current. Yeah.
So perhaps that was a little bit of a stretch. Let me just say what I mean. So right now, and Lachelle can certainly expand on this, the 70,000 wait list, as we understand it, only 5 to 10, as you sort of wait on the list, you get pulled up to the top, and at some point, you're at the top of the list. But only about 5 to 10% of the households actually are housed. So either they are lost contact, or they fall off, or they can't produce the documentation, or they can't find a landlord. The limited preference that Sarah described and that we support as well would come with the services for the folks to do the landlord search, to provide the documentation, to help you do all of the work that SHRA is not able to provide. That's just not what they do. They provide a voucher, just like Lachelle described. So I believe that if we build in those services, and not only are the homeless populations, but the at-risk populations who can access those, then we'll see a much higher success rate, and hopefully the churn will start moving.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next speaker is Paul Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. My name is Paul Lake, Deputy County Executive for the County of Sacramento, and as Supervisor Natoli pointed out, I can answer any questions that you have regarding what we're doing around homelessness, but in general, I want to make the point that while you are focusing and considering the issue of the housing choice vouchers, which is a critical component of of what we're trying to do to address this problem. It really is one tool in the toolbox. And in addition to the recommendations that are coming forward on the 21st from SHRA, we are also going to be making some recommendations to the Board of Supervisors that talks about a larger plan. And that plan includes a number of components. It includes improving our emergency sheltering system for people who are in a crisis at the moment and have no immediate place to go. We currently provide over $2 million to several emergency shelter providers with some level of success, but we've concluded that a lot of times those folks are in those emergency shelters far too long, and we need to do a better job with the rapid rehousing. And we are going to be making some recommendations on how to improve that system of moving people out of emergency shelters and into some permanent housing more quickly. We have a number of tools as a county at our disposal through the CalWorks program and other sources of funding to make those improvements. We are also going to be making some recommendations on enhancing our transitional housing programs. Transitional housing, people do tend to stay there longer, but they get a number of services. And we have programs such as Mather Community Campus. There are some providers out there such as St. John's Program for Real Change, Cerna Village, and others that provide longer-term sheltering for people who need some additional time to develop employment skills. And we want to find a way to strengthen those programs. It was mentioned that the concept of a triage shelter, this is a larger 24/7 year-round shelter for people who we're going to target certain groups of people, our high-end users, perhaps our transitional age youth and others, as well as those would be probably the main ones, to bring to this shelter. And it's not just a roof over their head. It's not just a place to sleep. We're going to accommodate their pets. We're going to store their belongings, and we're going to provide a range of services on site that will help them get their identification. We'll provide some assistance clearing warrants. We'll get them engaged in employment programs, substance abuse programs, whatever it is they need that's presenting a barrier to getting people into some permanent housing. So we're going to be bringing those services to bear as well. Key to all of this, and none of it's going to work, including the housing choice vouchers, if we don't do a better job providing wraparound services. And again, those services are as I talked about, but they're also somebody who can be a caseworker to these folks. One of the things we found in our Navigator experiment in the last several years, so there have been some successes, is navigators don't have much to navigate to. And a lot of times and I've spent time out there with some of the navigators, and we've had more success with some, but with others, a lot of times the navigator makes contact with somebody, they say, I don't want your help tonight. I don't want your help. I'd rather just have you leave me be. And there's no more contact with them. We need caseworkers. We need social workers who are going to go out there once, twice, 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, however many times it takes to convince that person, I do want to turn my life around. Because if it was as easy as one contact for a lot of these folks to say, yes, I don't want to be homeless anymore, they probably wouldn't be homeless in the first place. You got to work with them. And we're going to be proposing a flexible rehousing system that provides those kinds of services. And that's going to be critical because, frankly, if we don't get something like that in place, none of our other efforts are going to work. So that's going to be critical to it. It was also mentioned the No Place Like Home program. I want to just touch on that very quickly. This is a program where the state is diverting Mental Health Services Act money that comes to counties for the specific purpose of funding bonds that counties have to compete for to either rehab or produce new housing for the homeless mentally ill. So we have to go through a competition process to get some of that money back so that we can devote that to those programs. The county then has to commit services to those programs for 20 years. So it's a big commitment. It's an important program. So that's in the process of being developed. The applications won't be coming out until next year, but that's going to be a major assistance to us to get more housing out there. Again, you can't navigate people to anywhere if there's no housing. So that's going to be an important part of what we're doing. So I'm open to any other questions that you have on that plan that's coming forward.
Questions? Go ahead.
Paul, thank you for that information, for being here tonight. I didn't hear you say, well, I think I heard you say earlier there was allocating these vouchers to homeless is one tool. Are you proposing that in your broad range of tools, or?
The county staff is not making any recommendations. We're deferring to SHRA staff, who's responsible for administering it.
Okay.
And the primary reason for that is HUD's not looking for us to predetermine, for our board as the governing body, to predetermine what that number should be until there's an outreach and community process, which is currently underway, which is part of the reason we're here tonight, to reach out to jurisdictions. So we really haven't made a statement as county staff of what we think the number or amount should be. We're deferring to the process that SHRA is going through and to the recommendations that they're going to make to our Board of Supervisors.
Okay. And then another question I had was, I heard you also, I mean, I heard Councilwoman Nguyen mention, and yourself and Emily, the need for services to supplement, these vouchers. What, in that case, what difference is there between what you may propose and what the city of Sacramento is proposing to do with their $5 million? And is there a way to combine forces in that regard?
I think that those possibilities are out there to work together, certainly.
Oh. Okay, thanks.
I think, so is that the combined funding from the county side and the $5 million that the Mayor Steinberg is getting from, was it Sutter Hill? Is that the funding combined to provide all these wraparound services? Is that what we're saying? Is that what
That's
you're
one
saying?
potential source of funding, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, Paul, more of a comment. I like your comprehensive approach because I agree 100%. Just doing one part is almost setting everybody up for failure. You have to do the whole aspect with understanding how these people got there, how they can receive help. And as you mentioned, that's a very difficult process for somebody. If it's taken them 5 years to get down that road, you don't flip the switch and have them come right back and trust everybody and accept everything. So is there, in your proposal for county caseworkers, is there, again, kind of to follow up on my question earlier on allocation, would there be county allocation by population, how many caseworkers you should have in a particular area?
We haven't determined that yet. As we proceed down the criteria for targeting who we're going to prioritize for these services, we're going to be looking at high-end users of law enforcement, high-end users of social services, high-end users of hospital services, and we'll gather that data from all of the jurisdictions to identify who are these high-end users. It's kind of the old 80-20 theory where 20% of the people take up 80% of your resources.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can focus on that subgroup, because we're not going to be able to serve 3,900, okay, with this triage shelter and with these other services. So we have to really prioritize and triage. So we're going to be working with all of the jurisdictions to identify, who these folks are that we need to target. And we're going to work with the providers that are out there. Law enforcement knows where these folks are. So to the extent that, some of the high-end users are people who are residing within the boundaries of the city of Elk Grove, we'll contact your law enforcement, we'll contact your fire and say, hey, help us find these folks, and we're going to send a social worker out there, and we're going to engage them and try to get them into housing. We're not going to allocate it proportionally. We're going to start by looking at that data. We're still trying to refine this model, and even after the 21st, when we go to the board with it, we're going to continue to work to refine it. Sarah is working with Cindy Kavanaugh, our Director of Homeless Initiatives, so the City of Elk Grove is very much engaged in these conversations.
Thank you, Paul.
Go ahead.
Paul, sorry, another question. So you've got a broad strategy, and I also like the sound of it, but it doesn't sound like it's quite ready for you to present in its entirety. If we were to move forward with this proposal, is it at great detriment to what you're proposing, or would this be one of your tools, as you say?
This would be one of our tools, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything that can add housing that's available to people who are homeless adds to that toolbox.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilman Hume.
Thank you. Paul, I just want to say I appreciate your point that you're going to kind of target those chronic homeless population initially. I don't know if you've read it, Malcolm Gladwell wrote an article for the New Yorkers called like $1 Million Joe or something. And I don't remember if it was in Reno, Nevada or Denver, Colorado, but they did that. They kind of focused on the core population that from a societal cost free up those resources that now we can help the fringe element that maybe bounces in and out of homelessness.
Yeah, that was $1 Million Murray. Was the
$1
name
Million
of it.
Murray,
Yeah.
thank you.
You had said that there are locations of a triage center, which is what's being proposed. Can you tell us where the locations are that are being looked at? Or is
We
that
have not yet identified a location. What we're going to present to the board on the 21st are criteria for identifying where we might put this. First triage shelter. City of San Francisco started off with one. They're right now proposing their 6th. I suspect over time we're going to know that one is not going to serve the entire population of this region. But at this point, we're going to propose one. We haven't picked a location yet. That work still needs to occur.
Okay. And I like the fact that you were talking about services and programs and not just the voucher, but I also want to make sure that the county is working with service-providing organizations as you're putting this together, right?
Absolutely,
because I think service-providing organizations are ones that know what the right services are that can help this population, and that the county and SHRA isn't just coming together with a plan, but actually working with the current organizations that are already providing these services that, we use their input as well, too.
Yes, our staff has met with provider groups. I myself met with a provider of services to transition-age homeless youth yesterday. And we've been working with advocates and getting lots of input and feedback on this as this plan has been crafted.
Great. And if I could also put a plug in for ARI Asian Resources, as we're a workforce development organization, and that is my push, is that the only way to make these folks be able to become self-sufficient is that we get them jobs. And so if we can reach out to them, that'd be great.
Yeah,
And I have a
employment
contact for you
service,
if you
yeah.
need.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. More questions? No?
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. All right, seeing that there are no additional speakers, I want to close public comment and want to open it up to council deliberation.
Move staff's
Well,
recommendation.
Okay.
I'd second that.
Okay.
I'd go with staff's recommendation for a 2-year trial, see how that works.
Actually, I was going to,
Doesn't have 2-year trial in the current
I was just going to say
ordinance.
that. We need to.
I was going to offer a motion. At this point, I would like to entertain the possibility of addressing this immediately. I know that there's, and I hear the number of speakers, that there is a comprehensive plan that's in the works, but as Emily has indicated, this is a crisis, and being in the city of Elk Grove, I see the trickle-in folks coming down here. That being the case, I would be open to 2-year, 100%, and addressing it immediately. And then as some of the county services come in and some of the grants come in, this could be tapered off, but those are my thoughts.
I actually like the staff's recommendation of 50%. I'd like us to kind of give this a trial and see how it goes, and then maybe come back and take a look, because I feel like we are putting our city and the folks here in our city in a situation already as we give these up, in a situation where they can fall into homelessness. And so I want to make sure, as a city council person for the city, that we need to make sure we take care of our city as well. I believe in the partnership and the collaboration, but I do feel that if we can do the 50%, which is what the staff recommended, and then maybe take a look at that and see how we're doing, and then possibly up that 50%. Again, I think there's still room for that. I think the county is still in its planning phases right now, and that possibly with the funding that comes through from SETR and other funding that's available, that the 50% might be enough.
First of all, I'll echo Councilwoman Wynn's points, but the other concern that I heard from Lachelle from SHRA was that HUD would have an issue of allocating all 100%. And the last thing I want to do is jeopardize what little, relatively little vouchers we're getting out of HUD.
Well, my assessment of that is this is kind of gauging, we're guessing, right? We don't know for sure whether HUD would say no, but my thing is we got to make the argument that this is a crisis, and this is sort of a jump start or a shot in the arm so that we can quickly respond with some of the things that are in line. That's why, I certainly will be in favor of 100%. You know, it doesn't have to be long, maybe a couple years to see how that goes, and then reassess at that point. But, you know, I mean, what I ascertain is that we don't know what I would say.
I think for my personal thinking, that out of 600 annually that come available region-wide, the number of actual vouchers we're talking about between 50% and 100% is so minimal that it's, you know, it's a pebble in an ocean kind of a thing. And so I would kind of concur with Councilwoman Nguyen's point about retaining some for folks that are either currently in Elk Grove or want to be in Elk Grove or have a connection to Elk Grove. I mean, you're probably talking about a difference of maybe 10, 15 vouchers, I would think.
I agree. I think we definitely have to protect the people that are on the bubble. You know, because it might just be a trade-off. You flip one out and you take somebody who's homeless and you give them the voucher, and the person who was on the waiting list now becomes homeless. And so you really, it's a net zero if you did that.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a motion, a second. Shall we call the question?
Yes.
And I don't know whether do we need it to part of the separate motion or not, but I brought up something or we were talking about with staff about having for our city, we talked about the Navigator program last week, but something more preventative measure, because this is, you know, once they get past into homeless, we're you know, it's so hard to get them back out. So somebody, as was alluded to earlier, more of a caseworker that can go out and target the people.
That's something that the county is going to work on, that technically, and we, you know, we've started with the Navigator, and the county's going to work on that as we move forward. And now the voucher program, that's about as far as I want to go right now.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Okay. We ready? All right. All in favor of staff's recommendation? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstention? All right. Next item.
Take us to item 10.2, which is to receive information on event advertising sign program options and provide direction to staff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jeff Warner, representing the Public Works Department. I have two presentations prepared for you this evening. The first is a discussion of an event advertising sign pilot program. This item first came about in April, shortly after the completion of our wayfinding sign project. The council identified a need to better educate the public about upcoming and future events through the use of additional signage. Two options were explored at that time, a digital billboard option or a more static interchangeable panel type sign. The council at that time preferred to move forward exploring the pilot program using the static interchangeable panel type sign. Since that time, we've developed three options for you guys to consider, design options. Concept number one, as pictured here, is modeled after what we see typically in Folsom. We've obviously adjusted the sign to have the Elk Grove branding, colors, and logos, as well as we've added the club logos down at the bottom for an opportunity for them to get on the signs as well. The estimated construction cost for this option is $50,000. Concept number two is modeled more closely to our wayfinding signs, except they're much larger. They also have the club logos down at the bottom. This concept is estimated to cost about $42,000, so a little bit less than option number one. Concept number 2A is 2A because it's very similar to concept number 2, except it has a cutout in the top of the sign as opposed to a solid panel. For this reason, it's a little bit more expensive. For fabrication, it's estimated to cost about $49,000 to construct. The estimated total costs for any of the signs range from $70,000 to $75,000 for a single sign. That's summarized in Table 1. I should point out that Table 1 and there's a discrepancy between how the signs are categorized in the table and in the exhibits. Here, they're shown as alternatives 1, 2A, and 2B, whereas in the exhibits, they're concepts 1, 2, and 2A. Essentially, there's three options before you, they're in order here, and that's what they would cost all in, including engineering and construction management and preparation of bid documents to put it out to bid. We also looked at locations. Council wanted us to look at locations that were high traffic volume locations or gateway locations to the city. We identified two locations, both locations being within city right-of-way and having little to no apparent utility conflicts. Location number one is on the westbound approach to Laguna Springs West Stockton and Laguna Boulevard intersection, right in front of Mimi's Cafe in the little landscape area there. The only, the average daily traffic volume at this intersection is in excess of 40,000 vehicles per day, so it is a high volume intersection. The only caveat there is that this sign would only be oriented in the westbound direction. But as you can see from the photo, the queue that queues up at that intersection while stopped at that traffic signal is pretty significant, so there'll be a lot of exposure to the sign. It's also a gateway location, being very near the interchange of 99 Bond Road. Location number two is the southeast corner of the Bighorn Boulevard, Elk Grove Boulevard intersection. The average daily traffic volume at this intersection is actually in excess of 50,000 vehicles per day. The orientation of this sign, again, it's in city right-of-way, no apparent utility conflicts. The orientation would allow for visibility from multiple directions, including the southbound direction, the eastbound direction, as well as the westbound direction when vehicles are actually stopped at the signal. They'd be able to view the sign as well if oriented properly. It's also adjacent and very close to the future Civic Center, Aquatic Center site. In looking at similar programs in other cities, we essentially identified two options for how to run the program, a public or a privately run program. For a public or city-run program, we discussed options with the Public Affairs Department. They were identified that they had the capacity to handle the pilot program and were prepared to manage it. They have experience with the Veterans Banner program, as well as other event banner programs that they have here already. For a privately run program, we discussed options with the Elk Grove Chamber of Commerce, as well as Visit Elk Grove. Both were interested and were willing to explore options for the program. We didn't get into too much detail about what the program parameters would be. If council wishes to move forward this evening, we can work with these interested parties to develop the management and costs and other program guidelines. In summary, the fiscal impact, the cost to construct would be between $70,000 to $75,000 for a single sign, depending on the option preferred. Funding can be allocated from the general fund in fiscal year 17-18 for one or two signs, depending on how the council wishes to move forward. In summary, the staff is seeking direction from the council for whether or not to budget funding in the fiscal year, upcoming fiscal year, how many signs we should build with the pilot program, if the locations identified are acceptable, and whether to proceed with development of the program guidelines. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'm open to questions, deliberation.
Questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeff, thanks for the presentation. So if it was approved, how quickly could it be up?
So the budget would come online in the upcoming fiscal year. We anticipate development of the program guidelines could take a few months, and then we would probably be looking at construction sometime early 2019, I would guess.
Wow, 2019, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2018.
Oh,
next year.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Next year.
That's a long time.
I'm thinking fiscal year 18.
All right.
Next year, calendar year 18.
Yeah. Okay, questions? No? All right, thank you. At this time, I want to open for public comment, and I see that we have one speaker signed up. John, you still here? Come on up.
Thank you, Mayor Lee and council members. I do not envy you. You guys have tough decisions to make, especially with that last agenda item. Just wanted to make a couple of comments why the Chamber of Commerce. My name is John Broughton, by the way, for those of you who don't know me. I am the board chair at the Elk Grove Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to make a couple brief comments about why we feel that we are the best program manager that you have before you to see this through, and with our experience that we could bring this thing to fruition. You know, the Chamber of Commerce has had 65 years in the community. We have the tenure. We are in the business of promoting businesses, promoting events, as well as many other things that we do. But this is our core business, and we think that a partnership with the city is a logical one for us. We also have the right audience. We have not only our membership base, who many of them are also community leaders and on associations, whether it's community associations, sporting associations, the wide gamut. We have that right audience to promote this, this tool, if you will, to that audience. And so we bring that to the table as well. From a logistics perspective, the Chamber of Commerce is already set up to really program manage this. We do this every day in our day-to-day business. We have the infrastructure, we have the staff, we have the systems and the tools to support whether the program looks like order entries, whether that's over the web, over the phone, over the counter, billing and invoicing options, as well as a variety of different payment options. So our back office systems and staff are already set up in doing this on a day-to-day basis. So we have the infrastructure already in place, and we think that's, you know, very relevant. And, you know, we do also concur that we think that, you know, sitting with the city staff and developing a couple of recommendations, maybe proposing a couple of different options to the council members would be something that we would definitely like to entertain and come back and show you why we think the program is an important one to pursue. So thank you. Any questions?
I do have a question. How long would that effort take, John?
I think that, you know, our board, as well as you know, the staff at the chamber, have been thinking about this and working, you know, having discussions about it. I suspect that we, and I don't want to speak for the city, but I suspect from the chamber's perspective, I think that we can get it done in a month maximum. I mean, I really think it'd just be a few weeks to sit down and iron out, depending upon what some of the ideas might be, and the logistics behind those ideas and how do we achieve them. But I think if we all are pretty much in agreement coming out the gate, I think it could be done fairly quickly.
And the ultimate work product would be justification for the entire program, not just a sales pitch is why the chamber should run it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay. And why we should be a partner in that overall program, yes.
Hey, John, good to see you. If you were to manage this program, it would be city-wide. So have you thought about how you would handle any applications that came in that were non-chamber members, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and I think it is, you know, citywide, and you know, I didn't do a good job communicating, but this wouldn't just be for the chamber membership. My point was, you know, that is a large audience that and of which has, you know, many different members that are a part of the community at large. And, you know, I would suspect a lot of the associations and people who want to advertise events, you know, some would be chamber members, some would not. But yes, we would not be looking to just manage this for chamber members only. It would be for the community, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Seeing that there are no additional speakers, I want to close public comment. I'm going to open up to the deliberation.
I personally am excited about this. I think, you know, we're always looking for a way to reach our population, and somehow, whether it's Facebook, Nextdoor app, website, it never seems to be enough. And I think with these daily traffic volumes, we have a great opportunity to reach most of our city. And personally, I like Concept 2 in both locations. So, thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I've been 100% supporter of this, you know, supporter of the wayfinding fines, and option 2 is the only one that mirrors the existing signs that are out there. So I think for continuity, I support option 2. John, unfortunately, I'm going to have to differ with you. I think the city does a hell of a job on the stuff that we do. You guys do a great job. I wouldn't say necessarily better, different. But I would, since it's a city sign, I believe it should be run by the city. I'm not sure whether Kristen and Jody want to take that on, but I think they're intimately involved. We've got coming up with our budgets and everything, how many of the nonprofits come before us already. So and as well as the council collectively, we've got great connections with pretty much all the nonprofits and sports teams and everything else as well. Not to discount that you guys couldn't do a great job, but again, I think it's a city item and I think it should be city run. And as far as the budget, I'm fine with the budget amount and those 2 locations.
Okay. Input?
Yeah, the most positive thing I can say about this is that we've at least moved away from the idea of electronic reader board signs for this. I'm not against necessarily this program. I just think at $150,000 to launch it is a lot of money for potentially negligible impact, is when you look at only having 2 locations within the city, that only people who that's a part of their driving pattern will ever see these signs. And kind of to John's point, and let me back up, I would be willing to continue the item to see the case that the chamber would make, A, for the program and B, for their management of it. But I think to John's larger point, as far as individual networking, every group that has these events has a group of network that they, through social media and other means. I mean, I guess I'm just saying this to me seems like a 19th century solution to 21st century going forward. I want all of the events in town to be successful. I think at some point we get to a saturation of signs and we just turn nose blind to them.
Well, other than, we look at what happened with, I know a lot of people were questioning whether the business district signs would be valuable with all the technology we have. Yet, we've talked to the folks who actually, Daryl from Chick-fil-A specifically, had I believe it was a 30% increase in his business from something that's old-fashioned. I think it's a matter of using, this is just one tool, it's not the tool. So if you're potentially every day are doing 90,000 cars, that's a pretty good chunk of the city, probably way more than is touching, whether it's just Facebook, just the newspaper, and they're seeing that every day versus it popping up once in front of them. I think it's just one tool, and that's why I support it.
Yeah, I would concur with that sentiment also. I mean, the thing about social media is you have to go there. If I don't go to your website, I don't go to your Facebook page, I don't go on Nextdoor app, then those tools are useless to us. And as Vice Mayor mentioned, it would complement those types of things. So there's so many instances I've heard in the community, people who are not on Nextdoor app yet. And so, they're missing out to a degree, but yet I would almost guarantee they're going to drive down Elk Grove Boulevard or Laguna Boulevard at some point in time. And so I think we have the best chance of hitting the most people. But to that end, I would appreciate whatever program we decide, and I'm willing to hear what partnerships could be developed too for management of it. I think our city staff, Chris and Joey, do a fantastic job, and they could do a great job, but there's opportunity for partnership. I'm willing to listen to it. But in terms of determining the effectiveness, if there's a way we can have a metric to see who went to a program, as a result of seeing it on the sign, that kind of thing, it would be good for us to know. So, when we move forward with it, we can see how effective they are. But I believe they would be effective, but we can just, verify that. Thank you.
I think you're right. The effectiveness of any type of marketing we do, if we could start getting statistics, and then we know where to spend our money.
Okay. Councilwoman Nguyen?
I like the signage and keeping it consistent with the city. I feel like if we changed it and made it digital, we'd have to start taking a look at all of our other sign and keeping it consistent as well too. I'm not opposed to the chamber running the program. I will say though that board members, board chairs, staffing does change, and so how would that affect this if the chamber does take on this program? And so I'd like to kind of hear from staff what their thoughts are on that, and if they can kind of run this in-house and what the cost is if we kind of outsource it and looked otherwhere as well too. I think I see that on here, that there would be that option.
Well, my thought is partnership is not new to the city, but I definitely believe that this needs to be steered by city personnel. For consistency purposes, option 2 makes sense to me. I wouldn't want to copy Roseville. So,
Folsom.
was it Folsom? Regardless.
One of those other cities.
Yeah, the other ones, not important.
We love them all. We love them all.
Anything else? Did you want your questions to be
I-
answered?
One more question, I'm sorry. So as I'm looking at the sign, one of the things that I've noticed is that, and my vision isn't the poorest, but it's not the greatest either, is that when I get to a sign, sometimes I miss the location because as I get there and then I see it, oh, there it is. So looking at option number 1, it seems like the signage is a little bit bigger, and so the wording is a little bit bigger, but would you be able to gauge, I think I overheard you say earlier that as they get to a stop sign, they're able to see it, but how far back, right? So if I'm looking for a location, I want to know ahead of time before I have to make that right or left-hand turn instead of, trying to break traffic and turn in there.
Yeah, so with the wayfinding signs, the letters are 6 inches tall. They're consistent with the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for you to be able to read that sign at several hundred feet on approach at the speed limits for those roads. These signs are much larger than those signs, so they could be viewed from a little bit further back depending on how much information is on each panel. So one panel could have very little, the event name could be small and could have much larger letters than the other. But others. So it really depends on the content and how it is, but these signs are much longer. And between option 2 and option 1, the sign area itself isn't much different.
Okay.
They're very similar in size.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we good?
Actually, I want to make sure that we're all together on this. What I've heard is that of the signs, you all prefer concept 2.
Correct.
And then with regard, where I'm hearing, some difference is in running the program. I've heard a couple of you have a preference for the city to run, but I also heard a couple of you say we'd like to entertain options. Basically, Vice Mayor Detrick and Suen saying city-run, Councilmember Hume and Nguyen saying we want to entertain an option, and I don't know where the mayor wound up, and I'm sorry about that.
Actually-
I'll entertain the option of a partnership, but I want the city to take the lead.
Okay.
And part of it is, I certainly don't want to discredit the chamber, but I think it's important to maintain consistency in terms of staff and personnel to make sure that we have a continuum of efforts on our end.
Well, then it would seem to me that what we would need to do is come back to you all next month and after having that discussion with the chamber to determine what that partnership might look like with it being steered by the city.
Yes, I said entertain a partnership as well.
Okay.
Just so you know, yeah.
Right. Well, that's why I'm asking, because I started to lose track, so.
I'll move to continue this item to the next month's meeting.
Well, I'd like to move
I'd
forward.
like to go to April, because your meeting, your agenda for March 22nd is heavy.
He said next month, though. That would be next month.
Yeah.
April would be, yeah.
Please do April.
But would we need to continue the whole thing, or would we at least move forward with what we've
No,
decided?
I think you could move forward with the program.
And then just the partnership
It's the
comes back.
partnership
Yeah.
that we
Right.
would need to come back.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Sounds good. You have enough?
Let me interject and get clarity here. So I want to confirm that we're in the midst of doing budgets for next year. I want to confirm that we're doing 2 locations for the signs. We're going to budget $140,000, which would be for option 2. Okay. Heard.
Thank you.
John, do we need a vote on a motion to continue to a date certain?
It's not necessary. We'll just bring it back.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Next item.
That'll take us to item 10.3, which is receive information on streetlight infill for specified areas in Elk Grove.
Question for the city attorney. I own property within the area identified as 2B. Do I need to recuse myself on this item?
So I'm going to ask you the question, how close is the property that you have a 500-foot rule? Do you know if it's 500 feet?
I'm solidly within the area identified as 2B.
Out of an abundance of caution, you probably should recuse yourself. It may not technically be necessary, but it's probably the safer thing to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening once again. The second presentation I have for you this evening is a discussion on a streetlight infill in parts of eastern Elk Grove. In August of last year, we received an inquiry with concerns that there were no streetlights in a neighborhood. The city council directed staff to look into options for potentially adding streetlights to this neighborhood and others like it. Well, we took it upon ourselves to identify other areas like it. When we investigated area number 1, which is the area we received from the inquiry from, we started identifying other areas all throughout the city that potentially don't have streetlights or have non-standard streetlights according to our current improvement standards. Again, area 1 is where the call came from. That's an area that has essentially no streetlights. All of these areas were developed prior to incorporation in the 60s and 70s. Again, with no streetlights or non-standard streetlights.
I noticed Don Natoli just left before you said that.
So area 2 is a larger area. It's actually split into 2 sub-areas. That's because area 2A, which is the northern area closer to the Old Town District, has some streetlights. However, they're non-standard or don't conform to our existing spacing or configuration standards. Area 2B doesn't have city-maintained or operated streetlights, but it does have lights. I think Councilmember Hume obviously knows that area well, pointed out at the last meeting or the last discussion on this item that this area does have what he termed as pedestrian level lighting. These are private lights in the front of each of the homes in this area, and as you can see here, it is lighting the street. Area 3 is mostly a rural estate residential area. There are some limited streetlights in the area, but again, certainly not standard or conforming to our existing configurations. Table 1 is a summary of the costs to do this. The number of streetlights is identified in the first row. That's based on what it would take to add streetlights based on our current improvement standards, what it would cost to install, the estimated cost to replace just the lights after 20 years, because the useful life on the lights is 20 years, so we included that here. And then the estimated annual maintenance cost, and then the bottom line is what it would cost over 20 years. A mechanism is needed to fund the cost of installation and the ongoing cost of maintenance. As far as maintenance goes, maintenance of lights in adjacent neighborhoods and most neighborhoods in the city of Elk Grove is funded through Streetlight Maintenance District Number 1, Zone 1. Annexation of the infill areas into Zone 1 would require a Proposition 218 vote, similar to a formation of a new district. Streetlight Maintenance District 1 revenues are currently subsidized by gas tax because the revenues are insufficient to meet the maintenance needs currently for the city on a bigger scale. The estimated subsidy for this upcoming fiscal year is $210,000. If these areas were annexed and all the lights were added, an additional subsidy of $2,500 would be required in order to maintain the lights on an annual basis. The capital costs, if no other funding is identified, could be funded through the formation of a new tax district. This would require preparation by the city of an engineer's report or similar nexus study, as well as a Proposition 218 vote. Formation costs are estimated to be between $300,000 and $400,000 on top of the costs shown in Table 1. Table 2 is a summary of the all-in cost. It includes the capital cost as shown in Table 1 over 20 years, the cost to establish the district and fund the reserve, and a summary of the total debt issuance, a 4% interest rate, and the bottom line here is the cost to the property owners on an annual basis, with an average cost for across all the areas of about $335 per property. The next steps staff is recommending is to perform a public outreach survey in each of the areas to identify and determine if residents are willing to pay the additional assessment to get the streetlights in their area. The survey results would be summarized and presented to council, which could be used to determine whether or not to proceed with formation. The fiscal impact to perform the public outreach survey is estimated to be less than $10,000. That concludes this presentation. I'm willing to entertain any questions and deliberation.
Okay, questions?
Questions?
No questions?
Thank you.
Straightforward, great. At this time, I want to open to public comment. Seeing that there are no speakers, I want to close public comment. And let's deliberate. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I definitely support going out on do a survey. Staff's recommendation, I think, is the most conservative approach, and see if there's an appetite from each one of those areas to even pursue that. Because what's been mentioned in the past, you may have a blend of people who like it, kept that kind of more rural feeling by lack of better words, being in the dark. And then the other bigger issue probably is, I know a lot of those same areas, when CSD went in for their 218 increases, they failed. So the odds are that it may or may not go. So I think those two items alone would be the telling whether we'd even continue or not.
Okay, Councilman Sue.
Yeah, I concur with the Vice Mayor's statements. You know, originally I thought, well, why not just go out for straight to the vote? But recognizing the cost of the formation documents, compared to the cost of what a survey would, it makes more sense to proceed that way, I think.
Yeah, and I would support that. You know, I mean, there may be a reason why they bought the house in that community, and we certainly don't want to make any presumptions, so I would be in favor of doing a survey. Okay. Good. All right. Is that enough? All right. Okay. Next item.
Take us to item 10.4, which is to consider revisions to the City of Elk Grove City Council Norms and Procedures Manual. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, I'm Jason Lindgren, your city clerk. It's been 2 years since we've had a look at the Norms and Procedure Manual. When this item was asked to be returned for consideration, it was Vice Mayor Detrick that brought that back up at our December meeting in 2016. What staff does is we look through the norms and go through and provide some direction on some items that just are kind of procedural items. So you'll see some red markup that shows up in the manual that are more the practicalities of how we've implemented items. What those address are things such as the appointments process. There's a little bit of clarification about when we would trigger considering to talk about opening up a process for considering a vacancy appointment, which is earlier in the process if it's for contests outside of the city of Elk Grove. So folks who are seeking office and they're sitting council members seeking for offices outside of an Elk Grove contest. And then just to codify the actual practices that we've had when we've had vacancy appointments for the past couple of cycles. There's also sections that we've added in there that are just taking into account the added position for the administrative support for the assistant to the city council. So it goes into how that admin support's provided, clarifies about having temporary services and staff, and then how mail deliveries are handled. And then there's sections that we have that are marked up for representation and ceremonial functions. We had two other categories that are just issues that have been brought up within the last 2 years since we looked at the Norms and Procedures Manual. And that's one of those is just to open up the discussion if you want to talk about the procedures for how proclamations are cleared for takeoff and then sent out to requesters, and then just attendance on legislative advocacy trips. So basically what we're looking for here tonight is just some direction. We'd actually return with a resolution for action on any items, but it really opens up the book on the Norms and Procedures Manual about how you'd like to proceed.
Okay. Questions? No questions? All right, want to open a public comment. Seeing that there nobody signed up to speak, want to close public comment and deliberation.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I support staff's recommendations on the red lines. Also, one additional red line I would recommend is on the Key to the City program. We've seen that there's very few that come forward on that, and I really believe that should be a council review on those appointments. Instead of having a panel, I think that should come back to council for each application that comes in.
Say that again, sorry, Vice Mayor.
It's not in the
So,
suggested list.
Councilman Soon asked me to repeat that. So currently, if a Key to the City goes before a review panel and then they make a recommendation to the city council, I think that can be one I've seen that's been problematic in the past. Sometimes there's been some delays. I think we use the continue method. It comes in, the requests come into the city clerk, and then it moves forward to the city council for reviewing and making recommendation. That's the only change to the item. Everything else would stay the same. You know, again, with that, once the decision's made, Key to the City would be then set up an award. The mayor or their designee presents the Key to the City to the recipient at a city function.
I would support that, yeah.
So you're just doing away with the panel and?
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's, you know, for the limited number we have, and again, it becomes just another step in the process that kind of gets muckied
Yeah,
up.
it's quiet, you know, I mean, that's the problem. Excellent program, but we just don't have an opportunity, you know, I don't know what it is, but it's just not enough opportunities to present them, so I would be in support of that, yeah.
Okay. I guess the only thing I saw in here was if we wanted just, Mayor, with your busy schedule, are you still able to, you know, review all these, or it might be easier just for us to just request proclamations?
No, I have no issues with, you know, reviewing proclamation. I don't think I've denied anything, you know, I mean, it's usually just reading it over, and by the time that Jason sends it to me, he's already blessed it, and it's just a quick review. I think it's just an opportunity for us to get our names out there. The city doing good things, recognizing different events, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and then not that we have to codify it in writing, but, you know, you and I talked about the Eagle Scout one before, about adding all the council members to
Oh,
that.
absolutely, yeah, I mean, it's, for clarification, there were a number of opportunities where Eagle Scouts within our city have requested certificates, and Councilman Soon and I had an opportunity to present, but it was only the mayor's signature on it, and our first reaction was, I think the entire council will want to, you know, recognize these young people.
And in that case, the mayor wasn't there, correct?
That is correct,
Yes,
yes.
yeah.
And it wasn't
Mayor
me,
Lee
though,
and I.
for
Oh, I
the
know.
record.
Right.
But, you know, I think putting everyone's name on certificates when we recognize a person who's done good deeds in the community, that opens up the opportunity for any one of us to present as well. And it looks like we're a solid team, so from a practical approach, that makes sense to me. Since I'm talking, the other thing that I wanted to address is, you know, the administrative assistant to the city council. I see some of these items that have been listed here, but I want to hear your thoughts on, in the event that any one of us wanted to put together a community cleanup or a coffee. I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of having this person do a little bit more of the legwork for us. And I don't think it's covered in here in the staff's recommendation. My only concern is, you know, I mean, whether handling all this will keep this the staff person busy, because you know the way I've approached it is, you know, for our community meetings, if there was a request for me to talk to a neighborhood association, I would schedule it, but where the real work here is making sure that it's properly publicized, making sure that there's coordination with the neighborhood association and their officers to be there, finding a location, securing it, and doing anything else that's necessary. In addition to that, obviously, there will be an agenda. Just off the top of my head, I can think of the formation of the Franklin Community Association, which involved all of that. And during that time, Mayor Davis had his assistant provide all of that support. And I think that's real important to make sure that somebody is actually here full-time at the city doing the work for council members who want to do these types of activities.
Well, I guess part I'm confused on there, you have a personal person, what, up to 15 hours, and then they have the assistant. So, I mean, if it's something that's personally that you're putting together to set up, I think that's maybe something that your personal person would do.
And I thought about that too, Vice Mayor. My scenario is, my makeup of my office is I have 2 individuals, one at 3 hours a week, and the other one at 12 hours a week. And they both have full-time jobs, and it becomes a challenge. And the truth is, and I hate to talk about it, but they may not have all the skills that are necessary. And that has been a challenge for my office as a city council member, and now as a mayor. And I've kind of relied on Carrie a lot, and part of that is, I kind of feel bad that right now we have a council assistant that's on disability, and I hear that we have one that's coming, but it's not here yet. So it's been a challenge, and so that's anything that I send out. I just want our city to look good, and if I have something that's being crafted last minute that just doesn't, may not even make, may have some grammatical errors in a letter or in an agenda or what have you, it becomes an embarrassment for the city. And so those are my concerns. I'm just trying to figure out the resources so that I can be effective as a mayor.
No, I think that's what we did in the previous meeting. You've got your personal assistant and you've got your shared assistant. Between the two, that should be able to cover most of your needs.
With the assistant that we are all sharing, is there the staff like Carrie or any of the other staff that would jump in to assist in some of these areas as well too? I'm not sure. I haven't had the opportunity to even utilize Carrie other than she just forwards everything over to me and I've been able to schedule everything and do everything myself. But that's me personally. I like to do that. Everybody's different. And so I would like to do my own scheduling, my own planning or whatnot, just so that way I know. But for instance, there was a mail piece, I believe, that was sent out. Was that city staff that created that? Is that something, Mr. Mayor, is that what you're talking about? Is like if you needed something like that, you would want the assistant to pull that together for you?
Which piece is that?
The handout
It's
piece,
not
the
a mail
trifold,
piece, a
the
handout
brochure.
piece.
Oh, the
Yeah,
trifold. Actually, that was handled by the Public Information Office. So, look, the bottom line here is, so long as there are resources, it doesn't matter. But I get uneasy when we start defining things. We start restricting, what this person can do. And I would be comfortable with, duties assigned, and this is being vetted and filtered through the law. I'm completely fine with that. I've got no issues, but just looking at that, at this at a glance, that's just my initial concern.
Well, and Stephanie, Laura's team has always been phenomenal with overlapping. I mean, it's never been just one person. It's whoever needs to kind of carry the ball. Everybody pitches in and does a little bit. So I think it goes way beyond just the administrative portion.
Right.
Whether it's Kara or, the list goes on and on with people that come in and support as needed.
Yeah, just the little time I've been here, everybody's been very helpful, not just Carrie. Everybody's popped in and emailed and asked and called and asked, is there anything you need help with and how can we direct you? I hear what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure that we're also utilizing the staff that we have too with their expertise in all of this, that they might be able to help us more than the assistant here.
And, you know, I'm fine with that. I think the direction that I'm headed is we need to leave enough wiggle room so that this staff that's supporting the entire city council can say, okay, so this needs to go to the public information officer because it's a flyer that's being developed. That helps me. You know, and I'd be honest with you, I just don't have the flexibility that many of you do in your day job. You know, I'm a grunt. I'm a frontline guy that sees kids on a regular basis. When I'm in juvenile hall, I just don't have, you know, access to emails and cell phone. So it becomes a challenge, and I'm just asking for help.
So if I can chime in, I would agree with Councilwoman Nguyen. I hear what you're saying, but I think given the fact that the current council assistant was in her revised role for such a short time prior to going out on disability, I'd rather wait till she's back or the new person, a new person is in the role and kind of get a gauge from them from what their workload looks like. Because if you think about just opening mail and some of the things that are called out here, I don't see that as being a full-time position. So there might be the wiggle room intrinsic in what we all need done, whether we need the support or don't need the support. To, you know, because scheduling of appointments falls under a lot of what you're probably talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm fine with that. I mean, so long as we make sure everything's on the table. What I don't want is the interpretation by the staffer to say, wait a minute, that's not part of my job duties. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's where Laura, that's why she's under, new person's going to be under Laura to be able to make those determinations.
And I'm fine with that, Laura. I mean, just want to clear it up because that was just my first reaction. It seems awfully restrictive.
Right, no, we will pitch in as necessary. I mean, and it goes from me on down. I mean, we all roll up our sleeves.
Laura's been pretty good at working in the gray areas.
Mayor, just when I first got on and I held community events too, I believe it was Carrie that actually set me up in a number of different facilities, locations.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Carrie's been wonderful.
Right.
There's no
But I'm
question
just
about
saying,
that, yeah.
so Carrie did that for me, but yet at that time, Mayor Davis still had Teresa. So theoretically, you would, you know, we have the council assistant and, you know, it's.
Sure, and.
Laura. And Carrie,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's fine, so long as that there's clarification that in the event that there was a town hall or community meeting, I would need support along those lines. Yeah.
Can we leave it as is and then revisit this as the assistant come in? Because I may not need her as much, her or him as much, and others may not, and she may have more time to do all the things that you need her to do. I would assume the assistant would find ways to keep herself busy amongst the five of us here.
Don't you worry, we keep everybody busy.
Yeah. I think how I would imagine this in the way it plays out is the work that needs to be done. I'll ask for help from Laura, and I think Laura has a number of you know, teammates that she can assign to. So the other thing that I did want to ask is the restriction as to when the council assistant can actually come into the office, 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Is that new?
Actually, it's not the assistant because the assistant is a city employee. It is for volunteers.
Oh, I see. So any volunteers that supports the assistant?
Or assist council members.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah, like an intern.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
The other thing, just to as we're talking through this, the changes to this paragraph, the one item that I want to make sure is clear is that under the current norm, we don't open your mail.
Oh,
and there have been instances where
there was correspondence we needed to get as soon as possible, particularly anything that is from the federal government, because those are usually time sensitive. So what we've provided here is the ability for us to handle the mail unless you all tell, unless you tell us not to, but it's the federal correspondence that we're really honing in on, or anything that's really of a time-sensitive nature, just because you all are coming in and out, and we would just want to make sure that we're responding to that type of time-sensitive correspondence quickly.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention, just for consistency's sake, and I'm not saying it should be or shouldn't be, but I noticed that on the last page of the staff report, page 4, with respect to representation at ceremonial functions, that under where it says additionally subsection B, only a council member can represent. It does not have the qualification, the most senior council member. Is that something that should be consistent, or does it not matter?
I think when we look at bringing back the norms, we can coincide those so that those aren't contradictory terms or one's not being left out of the other. We can add in the element that.
So I would suggest
Most senior.
add the oldest guy.
Thank you, that's a badge of honor that I wear.
All right. Is there anything else? Are we good?
You pups are hard to manage.
We just have fun up here. Okay, sounds good. You have enough? All right.
And with that, that'll take us to our last item, 10.5, which is to review city council appointments to regional boards, commissions, and committees. You have the staff report before you, which has a series of vacancies. Mainly those are from the vacancy created by when Gary Davis stepped away from office. Most of those were positions that he served on. We had a few movements in December, but most of that was moving alternates up to being voting member positions. So you have the list. It's of about 6 positions, 3 for direct voting members. 7 positions and then an ad hoc spot, so it's 8 total. So I've got listings for 3 voting member positions and then 4 alternates. And then we have 1 ad hoc committee that's functioning, but that was a membership that also Gary Davis was on, so it leaves a vacancy on that ad hoc.
Okay. Any questions?
Mayor, yeah, I would request to sit on the Sacramento Transportation Authority and the ad hoc.
Actually, let's start with questions, because we do have somebody who signed up for public comment.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
All right. Questions? No? All right. At this time, I want to open public comment, and we have Lynn Wheat, who signed up to speak.
Good evening. First, I'd like to begin by thanking you for serving on the commissions that you serve on and representing our city at the different meetings. This past week, on Wednesday night, there was a LAFCO hearing, and I was anticipating Councilman Hume to say something during his council report, and it didn't come forward. I think it's important when you take positions on different committees and boards that we focus on that during your council reports. So let me just share a little bit and report for Councilman Hume. So again, the Camera Road SOI DEIR is out for release. This is one of 2 public opportunities for people to speak. And then, of course, written comments could be provided till the end of March. At that meeting, one of the commissioners brought up the point that the city of Elk Grove has not weighed in on the document in any manner. Now, of course, some of this is being based on our general plan, and it was mentioned that our general plan is in the process of being updated, and they're also using the studies that were done regarding suburban propane and the safety around those tanks. Again, I appreciate all the boards that you serve on, and I look forward to in the future for all of your council council reports to include all of the board meetings that you attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wheat. Seeing that there are no additional speaker, I want to close public comment and deliberation. Councilman Soon, you had a volunteer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm volunteering and requesting to serve on the Sacramento Transportation Authority. I think it would complement the work I'm doing on SACOG, and then requesting to sit on the ad hoc Economic Development State Legislative Discussions Committee as things arise. Thank you.
Okay. And so the rest, shall we just offer it to Councilwoman Nguyen?
Yep, if there's nobody else rushing to take the rest, I'd
Great,
be more than happy.
congratulations. Are we good, gentlemen? Yeah. Is there anything that Vice Mayor or Councilman Hume wanted to jump
Since
in?
I can't even remember what boards I already sit on, I don't want any more.
All right. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion, second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Oppose, abstention? All right, we are adjourned at 9:53.